Okay, Michael, we're now live, so you can begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, ready. Good morning. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx Webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you're called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when your item is being held. During that time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time, and at all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance, and the host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect that instruction. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And we also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Members and staff, in view of the announcement of the passing of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, I would ask you to observe a moment of silence and sympathy at this loss for members of the royal family and all those who will mourn throughout the Commonwealth. Thank you. The Committee of Adjustment, this meeting is held in accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, and this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is now called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because the Committee of Adjustment, and in the event of appeal, the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, and in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. I'll call each item in the order listed in the agenda after first dealing with any deferrals or closed files and other housekeeping matters. In making submissions where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with the presentation if desired. Where the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. Committee members may ask questions and or take the matter after that into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. And we have the clock up on the board, and we'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark and ask you to wrap up. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address. Especially in the virtual world, we have to ensure for the minutes who is speaking, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent goes first and makes their presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it's being substantially revised, in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their presentations. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has the opportunity to another 5-minute maximum to answer those questions and rebut the issues raised by the speakers, but not to introduce new information at that time. And that will then mark the end of the discussion, and the application is then taken into committee for a decision. I believe we have some housekeeping. First of all, we have some minutes of the last meeting to approve.
Mr. Chair, I think we've lost the room, so we're going to just pause. I don't even see most of the members on camera.
I see them all.
Okay. Did we do the extra acknowledgement?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
You weren't able to hear the opening remarks?
Sorry, we've been trying to deal with the tech issues, so I wasn't.
Oh, I see. You weren't listening, but yeah,
Okay.
we did do that. Yes.
Yeah, we'll let you know when we can start up again.
Okay. Okay.
I also am not seeing all the members on camera. So Stan right now is not on camera for me. Michael just went off. So it's odd. It's not the typical way it shows up. So
You have to, as the view, you'll maybe check, there's a grid view. I'm not exactly a computer expert, but there's a layout button.
I played with it a bit. It's still, it's
I
hit
think
and miss,
it's a
right?
bandwidth
It
issue
comes
in
and
our
goes.
room.
I see. Okay. It's funny because we see the clock. That's usually indicative that we've lost
Yep,
the room.
I see the clock, but now I don't see anybody else other than the clock.
I see everyone.
Okay. We're all as good looking as usual. Okay.
I see everyone, and while we're waiting, did anybody get opportunity to register for the conference since they didn't get it soon, like on the subsequent?
This is still a public meeting.
I did,
So-
but we
Members, this is still a public meeting, so maybe hold that discussion.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
okay.
So if anyone is watching on YouTube, the screen is blank. We are just trying to restart our computers. We're having some technical issues, so please stand by. Thank you.
Members, if you could go ahead and mute yourself right now, that'd be great.
Okay, so I guess we left off of just asking for a motion to approve the minutes of the last hearing, which I believe was
No,
September the
Michael, we're
1st.
not ready yet. We're still not up.
I'll move approval of the minutes of the meeting.
Sorry,
Thank you,
we're
Mr.
not,
Palmer. You were there.
they're not connected.
Oh, I thought he just said, young fella said we could proceed. Okay, we're still not connected?
Okay, Michael, if you want to start with the motion for the minutes? You're muted.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September the 1st? Thank you, Mr. Palmer. You were there. Moving approval.
I'll move approval.
Seconded. Okay, can I have a seconder for that, even though you may have not been present? Yeah, I don't believe any of the other members were present. Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Okay, all in favor? The minutes are approved. Madam Secretary, is there any files to be closed today?
None today.
Okay, we didn't have any first time ever. I don't think we had didn't have a planning memo with any recommended deferrals, but we do in fact have two deferrals. The first one we'll call is item number 930 Pheasant Lane. Applicant agent is Ian Cunha. This matter, as noted, has a notification issue. There is no purpose, unfortunately, listed. There are two variances, but there is no purpose of the application. It was sent out to the public, so we have improper notice, and the notice will have to be revised and out. Mr. Cunha?
Yes, sir. Mr.
Good
Chairman,
morning.
I
Yes.
understand what happened, and we're willing to wait for the next available hearing.
Okay, thank you. I just see there are no other speakers on this application.
And I believe
Members, any questions, or can?
it's going to November 10th. That's based on the applicant's request.
Yeah, I just saw a memo to that effect where Mr. Cunha, you're asking for, you're going to, due to some circumstances, you wish to have it brought back November the 10th for that hearing.
Yes, correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So members, can I have a motion to defer, please?
Happy with that motion roll until November 10th.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that. Mr. Kumar, thank you. All in favor? Okay, Mr. Cunha, the matter is deferred. We'll see you back here on November the 10th.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Members, we're
you.
having
And the next-
bandwidth issues where not all of your video is appearing, so I'll need you to, instead of just raising your hand, maybe you could say who's seconding and, or making a motion? Thanks.
Okay, and you don't have to, for unanimous, we don't have to, well, I can just mention it was unanimous if I see all the hands up. So to clarify also, not just the mover and seconder, but who's in favor and who's not. Okay, so the next application, again, is a request for deferral in the additional materials just received from David Igleman, the agent on item number 10, 0 Titan Road. And it's just to park a parking depot. And planning is against this, is recommending refusal of this application. We have a land use map, an aerial map, but the applicant, Mr. Eagleman, asking for a deferral to consult with planning. Mr. Eagleman?
Yes, good morning, Sir Chair and committee members. I am requesting a deferral in order to allow for more time to consult with planning staff. We have had some discussions with them, but would like to continue those discussions. So I am requesting deferral at this time.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Eagleman, or is someone ready for a motion?
Can make that motion. Since community planning is seeking refusal, I would recommend that we defer this, so I'm making a motion for deferral.
Thank you. And for that motion, please, verbally.
Second, Palmer.
Thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Eagleman. We'll
Chair.
see you again.
Thank
See you
you.
here again. Thank you. Okay, so we can now return to the top of the agenda and start hearing applications. Our first application is item number 1, 247 Alderbrae Avenue. We have a revised notice highlighted to show changes. It's to construct a new dwelling with an attached garage. There were eight variants. Sorry. I missed my page. We did have 7. Now there are 3. We have the revisions, cover letter. Planning has provided us with a report for information, and urban forestry looking for conditions 1 and 2. Community planning points out that the FSI portion of the basement is included, and otherwise it would be 0.69, not 0.72. Speaker is Eddie Perez. Mr. Perez, welcome.
Hello, good morning, Chairman and committee members. My name is Eddie Perez. I'm here on behalf of the owners and the designers. We're at 537 Rogers Road. Do you want me to run the list of variants that got changed?
If you wish, just to highlight what have these were at the request of planning, I take it.
Yeah, number 1 got eliminated.
Mhm.
Number 2 got changed from 362.49 to 342.67, 72 times the area.
Yep.
Number 3, 5 and 6 got eliminated.
Yes. Okay. So substantial changes made. Planning's report indicates they're okay with it. Members, any questions for Mr. Perez, or is someone prepared to weigh in with a motion?
Palmer, question you, sir, you're okay with the suggested conditions from forestry?
Yeah, we're okay with it. Thank you.
And then,
We'll take care of it.
okay, I would, okay, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No other questions? Mr. Kumar?
Yeah, in light of the substantial revisions that are taking place, I believe the application now meets the 4 tests, and I would therefore like to move approval subject to forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seconder for that, Ms. Alderson, thank you. I see your hand up. All in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. Perez, you have your application's been approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, application number 2 is probably our most sort of complicated one of the morning. 98 Dunedin Drive. It's an application to maintain the existing dwelling with 3 variances. There is a delegated consent application this afternoon, which the people on the line registered to speak, as well as anyone watching on YouTube. You would have gotten a notice for that one. There is no need to deal with to attend for that. That is just done by the Secretary Treasurer. There's no hearing for that. In the event that the application this morning is approved, and then that would follow suit, and there's no need, and it won't be called on this afternoon, notwithstanding he received the notice. Okay, so this what we have on this file, just to give some example, we have the 3 variances. We have a cover letter, a previous decision from January 2021 for a 2-story rear addition. We have letters of opposition in the additional materials, a new letter signed by quite a number of residents. And in the additional materials, we have also Councillor Grimes' letter advising that he have a previous decision. This matter was also refused. The application that was brought and next door, which we have as well. So this is the consent, delegated consent is to sever the lot for a purpose of a lot addition, meaning that this lot will get bigger, the variances will get smaller. It's to equalize the lots, which is why Councillor Grimes says at this point he is in favor. And just to advise residents that this application has been flagged for a high level of scrutiny in the event once they bring an application on the new lot so created this afternoon by the lot addition. So sorry for that long introduction. Having said that, the speaker who asked to give some background as well is Dan Hornibrook. And as well, we have 4 neighbors registered to speak on Stratham, Dunedin. As well as letters of opposition, we have engineering construction services weighing in. And like I said, we have both the previous decision and in the additional materials, the refusal decision on 96. Okay, Mr. Hornibrook, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I think what we're trying to do is simply redefine the existing lot line and equalize the 2 existing lots of record. We're not, to be clear, we're not creating a new lot or adding an additional lot. We're simply trying to redefine this, the original lot line. This is done actually in response to the previous hearing where neighbors raised concerns about the smaller lot. So we simply thought, okay, at our expense, we will move the lot line to equalize the lots. And we felt before, and we certainly feel now, that they're well within keeping and they're very consistent with all of the other lots up and down the street.
Right.
I think I'll listen to the neighbors and then respond if that's okay with the committee.
Sure. So I think perhaps the neighbor, neighbors are a little maybe suspicious the application got, but this is to equalize the lots. And although on a normal severance, at least my experience is you come to the committee to sever and create 2 lots out of 1, which is not happening here. You have to then show what you're going to put on each of those 2 newly created lots. You can't just sever it and say I'm coming back later. But this is different, in my view, because you're not creating the lot, you're just equalizing them. So as Councillor Grimes points out, and I think that's what we're going to hear the neighbors' concerns, but I think they can rely upon that both planning and the councillor's office are going to flag this for when it comes back in the future. Once this goes through, the lots are equalized, they go back to the drawing board, it will receive a higher degree of scrutiny as advised. So let's hear what the neighbors' concerns are. Does anyone else have any, before we do that, any questions for Mr. Hornibrook at this time? Okay, Mr. Kumarik. Yeah, I think you're on mute, sir.
Sorry, just wanted to clarify what's happening so that everyone's clear, or what's being asked for. Part 3 is being taken from, look at the drawings. Part 3 is being taken from Part 1 and added to Part 2. Is that what's happening?
I'm sorry, are you asking me?
Yes.
I apologize, I don't have that in front of me, but from memory, yes, that's exactly what's happening, sir. one 18 inches basically is being removed from one parcel and added to the other, and I
Okay,
don't.
so let me rephrase that. The southern lot is adding to the northern lot.
No, the
No.
northern lot is adding to the southern lot.
Okay, so that's why that northern lot then becomes substandard.
Well, it's not, it depends on your terminology, sir.
Well, but
It's
then
not-
you wind up having a variance because that lot becomes
Yes,
smaller
a
than,
variance with, yes, yes, sir.
right, so part one, the southern lot will not be an undersized lot then.
Well, it depends on your definition on
Well,
undersized.
let me
Neither lot.
Let me
Sorry.
rephrase that. By adding part 3 to part 1, will part 1 still need a variance for lot size, for minimum lot size?
No, it will not. It's an existing lot of record and is an existing legal lot of record that does not require a variance for lot area or lot frontage.
Okay, but how does the frontage of that lot then relate to the minimum required lot frontage as
Well,
defined in the bylaw?
if you're asking if I were going for a severance and trying to create two new lots, two additional lots, or an additional lot to what existed, they would each require lot area and lot frontage, but they are two existing lots of record. In fact, there are, without confusing the issue, there are.
No, I understand, but the only point I'm trying to make is that you're going to shift that sliver, but both lots will still be less than the bylaw minimum.
I disagree.
I don't know,
No,
but
so first of all, they're going to be equal.
I
Right? Is they're going to
understand
be
that.
equal, I think.
But this shouldn't be a complicated question. What's the minimum lot frontage as defined by bylaw, and will those lots meet that minimum lot frontage? That's all I'm trying to ask.
Understood. The minimum lot frontage, sir, with respect to the bylaw, is any existing lot of record is an existing legal lot of record and meets the
Okay,
bylaw.
I think Mr. Hornibrook, I think he's asking a simple question. The answer, I can give him the answer. The minimum required lot frontage as identified variance 1 is 13.5. So both lots are deficient. They will still be deficient, but now the deficiency is going to be equal. So they're both at least equal size. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean,
I don't know why you're dancing around and not answering him.
I guess
They
I'm
are
just trying-
deficient.
I just
My
wanted.
apologies.
Deficient lot
I'm
area.
not
and
trying
over
to be, my apologies. I'm not trying to be difficult. It's just the interpretation of the bylaw to the letter of the law is what I suggested, but I understand what you're saying and I'm not going to dispute it.
Okay,
I just
so
want everyone to be clear on what's being proposed and what the net result would be.
I understand.
okay, so Mr. Kamarick, I think what you were trying to get out of the applicant is that the required lot frontage, I assume it's both for the same lots. We see at variance 1 is 13.5. It's going to be 10.52. That was after the shift. It would be different before the shift. Again, the minimum required lot area is 510 square meters. In this case, it's 333.5 meters. Again, it's deficient from the bylaw. So, is that agreed, Mr. Hornibrook?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so there's no other questions for Mr. Hornibrook. Let's hear from the neighbors as to what their concerns are. And again, if the concern is just, well, we don't know what's going to be built there, you'll find out in due course. And it will be saying if there are, unless it's built pursuant to the zoning bylaw, that would be notification, will be a hearing. And Councillor Crimes is already, assuming he wins re-election, has already advised that his office has flagged it for a high level of scrutiny. Okay, so let's hear first neighbor is Bruce Stratton at 128 Strath.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'm right next door, or right behind to the west. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think the applicant went for a variance for 98 Dunedin. And at that time, I don't think any of the neighbors realized that there were in fact 2 lots there. And I'm not even sure they realized that the front lawn of the new place, 98, would be a driveway with a couple of cars in it. Nor did they realize that there would be like a rather large shed in the back of the property that didn't show up. And I just have a question as to why at that time, if there was an attempt to even reduce the lot further, that wasn't brought to the attention of the neighbors. Can the applicant answer that question?
Yeah, sir, you have your 5 minutes and then he listens to the answer and he'll answer at the end.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's not like a back and forth. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, the upshot of this thing is that I believe the applicant wants to put another house on the street on a subsized lot that is not like any other lot on the street. The remainder of the lots are like 44 feet wide. These are now 30 feet wide. It's not typical to have the front of the house as asphalt with a couple of cars parked there. It has been done in other, streets in the neighborhood. I think it's awful. I think it's a pity that it happened. And frankly, I don't want to see it happen on Dunedin. It's a poor precedent, and it's clear that I would think that the applicant is just, desiring to increase the so-called size of the south lot. We'll come back again with an oversized house that probably, stretches to the backyard, and it's just a bad precedent. So I don't see any point in even considering this, and I'm opposed to it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Members, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Stratton before we go on to the next speaker? Okay. I just want to point out, I've just been reviewing this as I go live, that Mr. Hornibrook, you're actually the husband of the owner. So you're effectively the homeowner. You're not an outside agent. Just wanted to clarify. Okay. Mr. Geiger, Paul Geiger at 94 Dunedin is the next speaker, right next door.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Good morning, sir.
I have to say that we are absolutely perplexed by these applications. This is the 3rd time this applicant has been in the City of Adjustment for variances, and now for the sever. The last meeting we had to discuss the applicant's building plans that were submitted, what now is referred to as 96 Dunedin, the current driveway lot, were subsequently turned down by you and City Planning and Forestry. And now the applicant is applying for variances that relate directly to a sever application for 96 Dunedin. The big question that we have is, why now? When just as a community member, a person that is not involved in development, I would think that when you're developing a property, you would look at the entire property and decide what you're going to do with it. And if you're going to put forward a sever, why would you put forward a sever, especially when you have 2 lots that are undersized? Why wouldn't you have put forward the sever right in the beginning? The applicant does not appear to have a coherent development plan for 98 or 96 Dunedin. It seems to us like it's an ad hoc development plan focusing on his own self-interest with no regard for neighbors in the community. The only thing that we can surmise right now with the applicant's initial rejection is that this has really caused him to rethink his plan for 96 Dunedin. The only way to get what the applicant wants is to take property from the existing property of 98 and make it part of 96. But the issue that I have is 96 was deficient right from the start. Why did we go through this initially? Why? Because he was trying to put a big house in a small lot with no regard for anybody, only his own self-interest. Although the application says the lot will stay vacant, it's clear the next the applicant's plan is to try and stuff a big house in a small lot. His severance application, yes, will resolve some of the variances from the first building plan, conveniently passed on to the original structure of 98 Dunedin. But what variances will the applicant apply for next with his next building plan if he gets approval for the severance? The variances that are being pushed over to 98 Dunedin, one being 34% for lot area, 22% on lot frontage, are significant and are out of character for the area. And as I've just heard, equalizing the lots are the frontage is too small. If you look at the house, the plot of land, 96 and 98, one house is turned on the lot, and it was turned on the lot because there was going to be a street that goes through. If you look at the original deeds, if a developer buys the full plot of land, wouldn't you think that that person would look at it and say, okay, how am I going to develop this in a way that suits the neighborhood and that fits the plot of land? Why wouldn't you turn the house so it faces the street, as my wife and I did, with an architect's help, to make the house such that it fit into the neighborhood? But no, this person renovates the house as it is, leaves it as it is, and the next house that is put in that empty lot, what will that house look at in 98 Dunedin? They'll look at a wall. And will that plot of land with those two houses be appealing for the neighborhood and will fit the neighborhood? No, it won't. So my big question to everybody is development. What kind of development is this? This is ad hoc development, and it's development all about a person that is trying to put money in their pocket. They're not doing it because they want to live in the house and they care about the neighborhood. That is the issue.
Okay, is that, I can't see the clock. I don't know where you are in your time, sir. Oh, there it is. You're coming up to the end. Would you like to sum up then, or are you done? And I'll ask you a question. So when you heard, I don't know if you heard me say that when you normally come, if you have a big piece of land and you're going to divide it, you come here for a traditional consent to sever, you have to almost come at the same time to show what you intend on building or retaining on those two lots after the severance. So I think what I'm hearing you say, the same thing should happen here.
I say
at the time that the city considers making these lots equal and doing the lot addition, I think from the neighbors are saying we want to see, and we want the committee to consider at the same time what they're proposing, not to remain it vacant, because it's clearly not going to remain vacant. You're saying that you feel that we should be considering it at the same time because he's going to try to stick a large house on that lot as created.
Yes, that's
I think
exactly
that's your position. You want to know what, or you want us to know what's proposed. Anyone have any questions then, Mr. Geiger, before we move on to the next speaker? Okay. Next speaker is David Turner from 92. So Mr. Geiger is on the other side. And I see no one's seeking to appear by video. So Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner has asked me to present his information. I don't.
Who's that?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, who's that?
It's David Turner speaking.
Okay, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'll try and keep my comments brief because I fully support the comments that have been made by the previous two speakers in opposition. So I'll try and be cognizant of your time. But I think that's the key point here, is just being cognizant of the history with respect to 96 and 98 Dunedin. Essentially, the ownership of 96 and 98 hasn't changed, even though at some point there appeared to be a sale of the property, and I can't comment on the background of that. But bottom line is 96 and 98, as I understand it, the ownership has remained the same. And the Committee of Adjustment previously has been indicated rejected a build that was proposed for 96 Dunedin, essentially because it was too much house for the property. So now we have a severance variance application from the related owner, and it seems like a logical conclusion that he's not participating in this process with the objective of leaving a vacant lot there. I share the concern that again, this just all seems backwards, and I understand that there's process and protocol, but without any sense of what's being proposed for the property, with the fact that they're less than the requirements, they're deficient. I think it was Mr. Comerick's point that he made earlier, without seeing plans or drawings that outlines what's intended to be built. And unless he's going to undertake to build nothing on 96, which I know property law doesn't allow, my submission would be that you can't rule on one without seeing the other, because they all go together. The variance, the severance, the build. Is it going to be one building? Is it going to be two? Is it going to be three? What are the plans for the other properties? It just seems backward to me as a longtime resident of the street. And so in my opinion, regardless of how the parties, the related parties who own 98 and 96 attempt to mesh the two properties, it undermines the fact that the actual geography or combined frontage or lot area, whatever it happens to be, there's obviously no new land added. And it, respectfully, any owner of 96 or 98 who subsequently applies to build any sort of building approaching the magnitude of the previous application, which was rejected, will once again be seeking to build just too much house for the property. And I'm just concerned, I just don't think you should be able to do indirectly what you can't do directly, and surely form can't triumph over substance. And those are my points. For that reason, I'm asking that the application be rejected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Turner. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Turner before we go on to the last speaker? Either Mr. or Mrs. Roth at 89 across the street. Okay, if no questions, Mr. and Mrs. Roth?
Good morning. Hello?
Yeah, we're getting an echo. I think you have two devices on, sir.
Yes.
Turn off one of your devices, please.
My name is Teresa Roth.
Hi, Teresa. I'm just going to stop you there for a second. I do note that there are two devices operating simultaneously. So if you can just close one of them and then speak from the other, that would be great. It would really minimize the reverb that we're getting.
And I know we have Mr. and Mrs. Roth's letter on the board as we try to resolve that technical issue. Mr. Moderator, what's going on? We lose both of their connections?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe so. I believe that Teresa may have logged off on both connected devices as opposed to one. So if we can just give her maybe a minute to have her reconnect.
Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Teresa is now back on the meeting, so we are going to unmute her and try and see if this sounds a little bit better than previous.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, finally.
Very
Okay.
good.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry if we
Yeah,
come.
sorry, excuse me. Only one of you is permitted to make a presentation.
All right. My name is
Okay, so-
Teresa. My name is Teresa Roth. My husband and I live at 89 Dunedin, just across the street from 98 Dunedin. Committee has before it various letters as well as a petition signed by 31 people. So you can see that there is wide concern about the impact of this application on our streetscape. We're also somewhat perplexed by the number of times this developer has come before the committee on 96 and 98 Dunedin, and by the hoops that the planning process itself is being asked to jump through just to accommodate this developer. Many years after it was built, the developer is requesting a retroactive variances for 98 Dunedin, a procedure that those of us not intimately involved in the construction industry find, well, bizarre and troubling, because it seems to circumvent the process of community involvement in planning decisions. The variances are a fait accompli and would appear to be past arguing against or altering. As to the variances being minor, the numbers speak for themselves. The lot frontage is 22% less than required. The lot area is 35% less than required. We don't consider this to be minor. But this application would result in two properties, both having frontages of 10.52 meters. We have systematically reviewed the frontages of hundreds of properties in the neighborhood and found that 97% of all properties in the area have frontages wider than what the developer is proposing. 90% have frontages of 12.19 meters or more. The developer's proposal of 10.52 meters is not at all representative of the prevailing physical characteristics of the neighborhood as required in Toronto official plan. And we note that prevailing is defined in the official plan as most frequently occurring form of development in that neighborhood, unquote. Character of the neighborhood is supposed to be based on the prevailing numbers, not on outliers. As to the severance itself, as others have said, the developer has given us no hint of his plans for his potentially enlarged property at 96. So how can its suitability for the purpose for which it is to be subdivided be assessed under the Planning Act? We can only extrapolate from his previous variance request for 96 Dunedin of February 2022, which was denied by committee. What this tells us is that the developer wants to build a large house on a small lot. And I have to say that having lived here for quite some time, 98 Dunedin Drive is a unique property and it really merits close scrutiny and planning, as others have said, due to the orientation of the house. It faces south, unlike every other house on Dunedin. If the developer succeeds in getting his severance, then it's reasonable to assume that he will once again try for variances for 96 to build his large house on his still small but slightly enlarged property. And I think the negative impact on our streetscape would be extreme. 98 would have no street presence at all. So these are the reasons why we like to see the severance and the variance refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roth. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Roth before we go back to Mr. Hornibrook for his rebuttal? One thing to just point out is we can sort of an interesting academic. We have, unlike a situation where there's a severance, these, I guess he is correct that these are two separate lots. I guess staff can confirm that, but they are as they are. And as if they are, he would have to come up with something that would fit. He's trying to make it equal. But the issue is, should he come here just like with a regular severance and have to show his plan, come in sort of with that information at the same time as the request to rejig these two lots, even if it makes it equal. So Mr. Cornerbrook, you've heard from the neighbors, very interesting. I think it's our most interesting situation today, of whether we should be dealing with this as a normal severance and having to show what you intend at the same time what you're intending on putting on 96. So please proceed. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. First, I guess.
First of all, can I just ask one question? Sorry. Do you and your you reside, or does your wife reside? You currently reside in the home?
We lived there for 2 years. We live approximately 20 houses away now. For context, I guess that's what you're looking for. I'm 64 years old, and my wife is a little younger. We were both born and raised in Etobicoke. We have 3 daughters. We all live in Etobicoke, and 2 of my daughters live in the Queensway area.
Okay.
So I'm a lifelong resident and worked for the fire department for the city of Toronto for 20 years. So
okay, so has property been vacant now since you moved out, or?
No, it's being lived in. There's people living in the home now.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, please proceed.
I guess the other thing I would like to suggest, indeed, in talking with planning, it's best to deal with this one at a time. That's why we're dealing only with number 98 Dunedin today. We're not asking for anything with respect to the vacant lot. That's for a different day and a different time.
Can you explain why? Why is that?
Well,
why wouldn't you just make everyone happy and come at the same time? Yeah.
Here's a what if.
Yep.
What if I weren't to develop that property for 20 years? I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen, but what if I decided not to because of economic conditions or whatever, or decided not to develop it for 2 or 3 years? That would preclude me from selling the other property, because if I have to wait to deal with one, I can't sell the other. So in order to move forward with one, I need to deal with each of them. And simply,
okay, go ahead.
That's it. And everyone seems to be making the developer like
with developers plans on it. I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
You sell it with the approved plans, and if they want to change, they don't like your approved plans, they come back to committee. Yeah.
Sir, I mean, sell it with the existing home. If I don't deal with this today, I can't sell the existing home because it's like one is being held for ransom for the other. So if I don't want to build on the vacant lot for 10 years, you preclude me from selling the existing house, which is unfair. One has nothing to do with the other. They're existing lots of record. They're 2 different homes.
Okay. I appreciate your okay. Thank you. That's a good answer.
Okay, thank you. So
please proceed. Answer the other neighbors' issues, which is more or less the same issue.
Well,
saying the same thing.
I would like to address, so that's the reason I need to deal with them separately, because one has nothing to do with the other. So in addressing number 98, which is why we're here today, somebody has suggested, Mr. Stratton in behind, that wondering why there was a driveway that appeared in a shed. Just to be clear, the driveway was a part of the original application and it was shown. The shed, the large structure that he calls it, is actually an 8x10 shed that is allowed to be built without a permit. It's not large. He also suggests that all of the lots are 44 feet. Well, I have a lot, all of the lots in front of me. And on the west side of Dunedin, where these homes reside, going south 17 properties all the way down to Shan, there's not one lot that is 44 feet, not one single lot, unless you include Mr. Geiger's, who's at number 94, who has a 69-foot lot, only because unknowingly he renovated his house and built onto what he had as a vacant lot and made the properties merge. He had 2 lots once upon a time himself. So with respect to saying that there are no 44, that they're all 44 feet, that's simply not true. So unfortunately, there's a lot of false narrative going around the neighborhood with, with respect to this application, which is simply not based on fact. This application relating to the redefining of the southerly lot at 98 Dunedin is simply our response to what the neighbors' concerns were from the earlier application, nothing more. It has been suggested that the proposed frontages are 30% smaller than all of the other lots.
Sorry, can I just interject, sir? I'm just staff. Could we get the location map up on the screen while Mr. Hornibrook is show it? It doesn't show a big part of the street, but it shows at least the immediate area. Let's just have that on the screen while you're speaking.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So it has been suggested that the proposed lot frontages are 30% smaller than all of the other houses on the street. I think I just reiterated that there are 14 properties running south from Government Road down to Shand Avenue. I took those 14 properties. They have an average, not large or small, the average lot frontage is 35.4 feet, while the proposed lot frontage is 34.5 feet. That's less than 3% narrower than what the average property is on that section of the street, less than 3%. So for the person to suggest a minute ago that it's 97% of the lots are larger, I don't know where their figures are coming from. You have them all there in front of you, and I've looked at them.
I think, sir, what they're saying is when we started off with the little dance with Mr. Komaric, the actual bylaw requirement is 13.5. That's what they're referring to. And, the lot patterning is what it is, but that is the bylaw requirement. 505 square meters, a lot area, and the 13.5 meter frontage.
So then, sir, using the criteria that you just suggested, if you take, and you've got up on your map there, if you take, there's 30 homes between Shand Avenue and Dunedin, Shand Avenue going up Dunedin to Government Road. On either side of the street, there are 30 homes. With the exception of Mr. Geiger, who used 2 properties, merged them into one, with the exception of that one property, there is not a single property, not even one, that would meet the criteria for today's bylaws of lot area and lot frontage. Not one single property of those 30. So to suggest that I'm creating an anomaly is simply not true. My lots are not the smallest. There are smaller. This is taking on a life of its own. I'm simply trying to redefine the lot line, sir. Anything that is going to happen on the other property is going to be scrutinized. The councillor himself has suggested that. Planning has no issue. Nobody has an issue except one person in particular who is popular in the neighborhood and has rounded up a whole bunch of other people. I'm trying to play fair. And they're asking why I've been to the Committee of Adjustment so many times. Well, there are 2 separate lots. I initially went for the one property and then I went for another property. And now, in order to equalize the lot based on conversations with planning, who I've involved in this with respect to what I'm, in front of the committee with today, I'm back at the committee. This is what I'm trying to do. The other thing I would like to suggest in closing is that when I applied for number 98 Dunedin Drive to do the initial renovation on that property, I did it not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes and use it as one entire lot, the entire 2 properties together, which everyone thought, and I would have been able to do that without any variances whatsoever. I didn't do that. I applied to the Committee of Adjustment based on what its actual frontage was and asked for relief from the Committee of Adjustment. So there's been no pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. I've been nothing but upfront from the very start. So I'm just trying to say here, this is a simple redefining of a lot line that I pursued at my expense, simply to address the neighbors' concerns about the smaller lot that they originally raised at number 96 Dunedin Drive in the previous application. I'm simply trying to move forward, and I've involved
Okay.
on all
Sir,
aspects.
you're sort of repeating yourself. I'm giving you extra time because I was asking questions, but please wrap up. Thanks.
I'm done. I respectfully ask the Committee of Adjustment to simply allow the redefining of the lot line, because that's all that's before them today. And I know that I will be under scrutiny from the planning department and the councillor and certainly the neighbors, and I welcome it. I'm not trying to do anything underhanded, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hornibrook. Any questions for Mr. Hornibrook or any of the other speakers for that matter at this point? Or let's take it into committee for a decision with, please, with comments, commentary. Thank Mr.
Palmer, a question for the applicant. Not that we're giving approval right now, but some of the conditions from engineering speak to driveway width and length. Are you able to accommodate those conditions?
Oh, yes, Mr. Palmer, I am. To clarify that, these are existing conditions. It's already done. Planning, I think with people working at home, I think traffic simply looked at an old Google map, and I sent an email off to them and explained that I'm not asking to do everything is done. The original renovation was completed. It was signed off on. Everything has been approved. Everything was completed. So when they were asking for that, they were asking as if it hadn't been done yet. But it's all done. This is simply, there's no physical change happening to the property or any trees or anything concerned. It's just simply moving the lot line. That's it. So to answer your question, it can all be achieved. You know, what they've asked for is in place.
Okay, I would beg to differ that it's reflected on the site plan, because it appears to me that the entire length of driveway is not on the property. That can be, he's asked for, I believe they've asked for 6 meters, I think. In any event, you've said you can accommodate it. That's fine.
Yeah.
That kind of speaks to your arrogance coming here, not justifying any of the variances you've asked for from any planning rationale. You're just seeking approval. So that's fine. You're going to take your chances doing that.
I'm sorry, sir. Would you repeat that? I apologize.
You've arrogantly come here and just asked for approval without any planning justification, justifying the variances you've asked for. But as I said, you'll take your chances doing that. Your same explanation with the driveway that you gave me, but that's fine.
No, sir. Arrogantly, with no planning, I've done nothing but involve the planning department. I'm at a loss to understand.
You have not given any planning rationale to support your variances that you've asked for, but we can probably we can look beyond that and look at what's before us.
I'm confused. I'm asking to move the lot line, sir. That's all. Everything else is existing. I haven't. I'm at a loss. I haven't tried to be arrogant or anything. If you're wondering if I'm a little frustrated, I am for sure, sir. But there's everything. I'm asking for 0.54 to be increased to 0.56, sir. That's all. FSI. That's all.
It's interesting that planning has not weighed in. We have a memo July 5th. Planning staff do not have any concerns with scheduling this application, and it said we may provide additional comments closer to the date of the hearing. So I assume they have not weighed in, which means they have no concerns.
I have worked with planning, sir. I've worked hand in hand. I've been on the phone and shared things back and forth with planning. So I'm sure they have no concern.
Yeah, I'm saying they said they may weigh in and they didn't. So I just want to put that out there. Other questions for Mr. Hornibrook? So. Okay, if not, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I actually do have a question, and I guess it's the kind of the elephant in the room. Is your, sir, is your ultimate objective to develop, build another home on this property? Is that your ultimate objective?
It absolutely.
Asking for the lot line? It is.
It absolutely is. And the reason that I'm asking to move the lot line is in response to what the neighbors had previously said, and in response to my dealing with the planning department. And it was suggested that this would be the proper way to go about it in order to facilitate what it is I would like to move forward. And this from the very start has been my plan. And I've been very upfront about that. There's nothing ad hoc about this. Everything I've asked or said that I was going to do, I have done. So I will come back in front of the committee again at a point in time. If the home needs very, suspect that it will, although I'm working with planning department as well, and I will go through the proper channels.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. I think that's an answer. So the issue is, I guess, right from the start, we started hearing this about 45 minutes ago, that should Mr. Hornibrook, the applicant, neighbors seem to feel, shall have to come, or should he come to the committee at the same time that he's doing this, what's intended to be built on the other property, similar to when you have a traditional severance of one lot. Here we have two lots, seeking to jig it a little bit to make it equal. And that obviously results in several variances to the as-built existing condition on 98. That's what's before us, plus the lot delegation. The big question, the $64,000 question here today is whether he should have to come back at the same time if he's asking for this. Given the neighbors certainly feel that way. Okay, so any discussion? And if not, is someone ready for a motion?
I'd like to add I'd like to start some discussion, which hopefully will lead to a motion. When we look at this application on the surface, if we look at it purely on the surface of the application is to maintain an existing dwelling. There's no need to approve any of these variances in order to maintain that existing dwelling. So therefore, that's not the true purpose of this application. The true purpose of this application, as already has been stated, is to be able to develop the adjoining property. If that in fact is the true purpose, then we don't have the true purpose stated in the notice. I guess you can't state that as the purpose, but so then the applicant is arguing that if we don't approve this first and we wait, we are creating a hardship on him because he will not be able to sell the existing property.
Correct.
Well, an application can be brought for the redevelopment of the other lot without actually redeveloping that other lot before selling that other property. So I don't see that argument.
That's what I had mentioned something about. Well, you can sell it. You have a plan in place. You sell it with a plan in place,
and then it actually has higher value because the purchaser knows what they can develop.
Yeah, and if the purchaser isn't happy with that, he can plan on going to the committee for further.
Exactly. So I don't buy that hardship argument.
Okay.
And
So
I have difficulty with this.
Okay. So anyone else want to weigh on what Mr. Kramerek and I are discussing? And if not, does it lead to a motion? And can someone, either Mr. Kramerek or someone else, make that motion? Or does anyone want to weigh in with any other opinion? Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I guess I see this as a lot less inflammatory than other folks. I see it as a simple 18-inch adjustment to the frontages and areas of two existing lots of record. And I think lot of record is key to my thinking on this. The fact is they are lots of record, and buildings could be built on both lots. So there's one already on 98 and another one could be built with variances for sure on 96. Minimally, the variances would be required because of the frontage and the lot area deficiencies. And I accept that we, as a committee, whether it's us or our successors, would be in a position to assess the planning implications of a proposed building on 96. And that can be a future exercise. I don't think we're abrogating any responsibility by not knowing what's going to be built on that lot at this point. I don't think it's important to know that at this point. That will be dealt with later. So I think in summary, my take on this is, in essence, it's an 18-inch adjustment to equalize frontages and areas of 2 existing lots of record. And it's not nearly as deleterious as perhaps others think.
And I think the key to that, with your argument, just to summarize, is it's making it equal. Like saying if it was they were equal and someone was saying, I want to skew it because I'm going to give it to my grandson and let him build a big house, or for some reason it's actually making it equal at 18 inches. The only and so you're drawing a distinction between a normal, if you're taking a clear severance, you would agree on a severance, we take one lot and you split it, and you should have the committee with the plans. But as you say, the key your view is it's already, there are lots of record and you're just making a jig. So we have two, I guess we need a motion from based on those two competing arguments and see where the chips fall. So as someone to make a motion. One of our very interesting case, situation. And community planning is not weighed in.
Palmer, I tend to agree with Mr. Taylor that, yeah, we're dealing with existing lots of records and a adjustment on the lot line there. Notwithstanding that the applicant didn't rationalize any of the variances from a planning point of view, I think we can see beyond that the variances requested are minor in nature. So I'll move for approval. The variances meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act are minor. I would say they're subject to the engineering and construction services conditions specific to this lot. And that's regarding the driveway width, curbs, etc. In their memo dated August 2nd, 22. And I don't know if we can tie it to the delegated approval of consent or not, because it really is tied into that application as well. And the lot is only for that purpose. Otherwise, it's back to the old lot size it was.
Okay, perhaps staff can assist. It's a very good question. Barb, what do we have to in lieu of this afternoon's delegated consent, which I've already told the neighbors there's no need to attend either way. Does there need to be some wording in the motion about the delegated consent to piggyback it?
Typically, when we have a consent application, we do add a condition that in the variance that all the consent conditions have to be fulfilled, so we can add that in as a condition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so that's your motion. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Is there a seconder for Mr. Palmer's motion? Mr. Taylor? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I'm in favor as well. The motion carries 4.
Sorry,
okay,
if someone's
Mr.
opposed, we need names.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I'm going to change my vote. I'm in favor. I do understand the rationale. I mean, it's just the way it's come across. But I mean, they are minor. They do meet the 4 tests. So
yeah, I was going to add also, if it did result in another like 10 variances on 98, including a big floor space index, that house was clearly overbuilt once you make the lot smaller, but it only is 0.56, and there are no other variances. So I guess after all that, we have unanimous approval. So thank you to Mr. Hornibrook. Thank you to all the neighbors, and stay tuned. We haven't heard the last. Okay. Thank you, members. Perhaps we should take our 15-minute break now and come back. I think, we have, I think we should be able to finish on time, perhaps. We have a very short afternoon. So does anyone agree we should have a 15-minute break at this point? Okay.
Yes, and
See
during
you
that
back, everyone,
time,
at 11 p.m.
we're going to try to resolve the issue, so thank you for your patience, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I can't see from the layout if we
Hey, Mike.
have
Hey, Michael.
everyone back.
We
Hey,
we are just we have technical staff on site. They're gonna try and connect the room to like a hotspot. There's a bit of a network issue that's been confirmed. So if we can take potentially another 15 minutes, all of our technical issues should be resolved by then, and then we can continue and go all the way through, if that's okay with you.
okay. Okay, so we'll come back at 11:15.
11:15.
Okay.
And yeah, apologies
Gotcha.
apologies to anyone waiting on the line.
Okay.
We had unforeseen technical issues, but we are working to get the hearing back operating smoothly as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Adam, Paul, Barb, how are we doing with our technical difficulties?
We're almost ready, Michael.
Okay.
Michael, question. I can't remember if you asked if any of us had conflicts or declaration of interest.
You're right. I think I missed that.
Not that I do, but
I'll ask when we go back online just to clarify that.
Okay. Okay, Michael, I believe we're ready to resume.
Okay. Those watching, apologize for the delay due to technical difficulties. Our next application, item number 380, DECARIE Circle. It's an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling. There are 5 variances. We have 8 letters of opposition. In the additional materials, we have a rendering and a transportation memo with conditions of approval. And that's all we have. Speakers on this application, we have Edward Begage, the agent, as well as we have 2 names registered to speak. 3 Brunner Drive and 16 DeCary Boulevard. First speaker is appearing by video. Well, the first neighbor, not the agent. Okay, so let's hear from the agent, Mr. Begaj.
Sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. And
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Begaj. Before you begin your presentation, Mr. Chair, the speaker from 3 Brunner Drive may or may not be joining us. I spoke with him this morning and advised he would still receive a copy of the notice of decision. So he had mentioned that he may have a conflict, so we may not be hearing from him at this morning's hearing.
Okay, just good segue. You mentioned conflict. I was pointed out that this morning in the opening remarks, I failed to ask if any of the panel or staff members have any conflicts of interest to declare on the matters before us on the morning's agenda. So I'll ask that now. Okay, none. Okay, so let's go back to Mr. Begaj then.
good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thanks for having me talk for this application. I would like to ask the first the staff to share a 3D view that I shared, I think 2-3 days ago with them. So it's a front elevation of the house with colors, if they can. Why I asked to share that, it's to show the Mr. Chair and members of the committee that it's not a monster house. It's just a normal house, but it's gonna be a beautiful one. It's work on the architectural side of it a lot. And we just have only 2 posts on the front, as you can see there. And there's no balcony on the 2nd floor, it's just the porch on the front. So we can continue with sharing the, if I may ask the staff to share the site plan or the survey. Can we share?
Sir, you can keep talking. We're getting the information on the screen.
Okay,
as you
yeah,
ask for
okay.
it.
So, if you can see on the site plan, all 4 sides, or maybe 5 sides, side setbacks are the more for, you can take a look. And we had a discussion with the zoning examiner. I never understand when she found the 3 feet distance. I went back and forth with emails and never, even till now, I didn't get a response from her to show me where she found that 3 feet, that side setback we are asking. If you can see the existing survey and the proposed site plan, we're building over the existing footprint. So we're not changing anything on the, and also, if you can see there, the front setback, it's 26 feet, and the closest point from the property line is the garage. It's garage door. If you can see on the bottom part of the drawing. So I don't know if she counted the stairs as a main wall. I don't understand. So for me, the front setback is 7.9 meters. So it's 26 feet. So I don't see that as a variance. So one variance is the side setback that doesn't exist. The second one is the front elevation that for me doesn't exist. The other one, we went with a 2.13, the stairs wider than 2 meters, just to keep it on the architectural side of the house, to bring it. That's why I show you the 3D, so the house can make sense on the architecture side. But we can go less than 2 meters for that. So I can also avoid that, yeah, you see the stairs? Because if you make, so like, not that size, the stairs is gonna look, the house is gonna look, let me say weird, not properly on the architecture side, so developed, so. But we can go less than 2 meters if you want, so that also minor variance can go. So what we're left here, it's a GFI, and it's the soffit of the eaves. For GFI, we're building over the existing footprint. If you can see, it's only one part of the house that it's on the side that we made the wall straight there. It was like a corner, and we made that straight. You can check the survey. So that's the only part that we using the land. So rather than that, we're staying in the same place as it was before. So I read most of the letters of the neighbors, because I strongly consider their opinion very important, and they are complaining that there is no 2-story houses there. I just found it within meters. So 82 Decary. He has half of the house is 2-story, and it's close to the border with the property line with the Decary. And 76 is a 2-story house, and 117 that looks like a far number, but it's 3 houses. The proposed, it's also a 2-story house. So this is not that we just came up with the idea, let's build the 2-story house there.
Okay, sir, if you could, I gave you a little extra time
Yes.
because we had some delay getting the plan up.
I'm good. I wanted to stay
understand.
5 minutes.
Yeah, we understand.
You guys are tired. I am too.
Well, it's not that we're tired. You're just supposed to have 5 minutes, but so,
Yeah,
sir,
thank
just
you
want
so
to
much.
clarify because you did say, and that's my understanding, this is a pure top up. You haven't made it any other than straightening out some small corner. More or less is a basic top up.
Yes.
Okay, you're not making it any bigger. You're using the existing footprint and.
Okay. We're keeping the height 9.5, 947, like the city allows. So we're not going high. We're not going large. Staying the same footprint.
Okay, so let's now hear, does anyone have any questions for the agent before we go to hear from the neighbors?
Sorry, can we just
Palmer?
get clarification? Sorry, it's Palmer. Get clarification on the variances. I thought I heard the applicant saying he was eliminating some of them, like the stair width, and I think he said he didn't need the front yard setback, I believe.
I think he was saying that he didn't understand why the zoning examiner identified these. I don't know if he's looking to eliminate. Please clarify, maybe I'm wrong, sir.
Yeah, so.
You eliminating variances?
No, I'm not eliminating because I don't know where she found that. I'm saying that, as you can see, I don't understand because for me it's 26 feet away. I don't know where she found. Maybe she measured from the stairs. I don't get it. That's what I'm saying. The stairs are not main wall for me, as much as I understand the code. But I want to keep it there. I don't know because I wrote to the examiner. I asked for to review the zoning. Till today, she haven't responded to me. It's been 2 months, so I can't do anything about it. That's why I went with his zoning, and also it's the side setback. If you can see on both the site plan and on the survey that I didn't prepare the survey, it's more than 4 feet everywhere. I don't know where she found the 3 feet. So I don't know what to say. And for the stair, I said, if you ask me to go less than 2 meters, I can go for that. I can accept that. But they say it makes sense those wide stairs there, 4 inches wider, because of the architectural side. My architects advised me to go that wide. If we make them narrow, the house is gonna. I don't.
Okay, you're adding more information than what you were asked. So that's your 2.13 where 2 meters is required. But you're saying other than that, you understand how the zoning examiner identified these variances and didn't respond to your inquiry. So it's what's before us is what's before us. That's what's been circulated. That's what we should deal with, I believe. Notwithstanding you don't understand where it is. Community planning hasn't weighed in with any objection. So if anyone has any more questions, Mr. Palmer, you have your answer. So let's move on then. If no one has any other questions, if we have both neighbors, I'm not sure. So is Orest Pfeiffer 3 Brunner Drive on the line?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, Orest is not on the line, so we can move on to Slavka.
Yeah, Slava Plavsic at 16 DECARIE Circle.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, all members of committee. My name is Slavka Plavšić. I have been living at 16 DECARIE Circle with my husband and 2 kids for 11 years. I got the letter from the city for public hearing, and I'm wondering why, this is, I have many concerns regarding the proposed building. First of all, that building is oversized a lot. If that building would be built, the first thing in the morning, what my family would see would be the wall. No sunlight, no view. The agent is showing the front look of the building. He should put a simulation with proposed building and the existing houses and the properties around, and see how that is going to affect not only our houses and properties, but however our lives. And you should know that that lot is approximately 2 feet higher than other lots. And imagine that huge building plus 2 feet higher lot, how that is going to look like. From my windows, I'm going to all my life to see just wall brick. And plus, there is a tree. He is not talking about the maple tree, huge maple tree, which sits between our properties. And plus, as I already mentioned, that lot is higher than ours. So it's going to flood our properties, our houses. That's potential hazard, flood hazard. I don't know what to say, but the agent should come and see how that property would look from my building, my windows, what my kids are going to see all day. That's all what I'm going to say, and I hope so this application is going to be rejected, because I have a feeling that that person is not going, the owner, to live in that building. He's just going to build and sell it, and we are going to, for the rest of our life, to live without no sunlight and with the brick wall. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Plavsic. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Plavsic? I would just like to point out to you, ma'am, that what the committee looks at is not comparing the proposal to what is there now, but what is permitted under the bylaw. So although it may be a change, you're saying there aren't many, it's predominantly bungalows. I see there's only a ½ meter height variance. The site height, I think it's a ½ meter for the soffit height. There's no overall height issue here. So that's what the committee looks at.
Sorry,
anyway,
through you, Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt. Orest has just joined the call.
Oh, okay. Okay, and I see Orest is at number 3 Brunner Drive. Okay, so he's sort of just in a key lot situation to the side of the house. as you see on the plan. So basically in the same relation as Ms. Plavsic, who just spoke at 16 DECARIE on the other side. Okay, welcome, Orest.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my time. My concerns are not much different than Slavka's, who I share a backyard fence with. The main, it's very. Can you hear me?
We just lost you.
Mr.
Maybe
Chair
start
and
over,
members, Orest, as a reminder, you did ask to have your video on while you're presenting. You have been bumped to a presenter, so if you'd like at this time to authorize the use of your video, you could do so at this time.
Is that better?
Yep. Okay, we see ya.
Yeah, my concerns basically echo that of Slavka. The house is going to be very near our properties, our houses, our children, and our personal space. We're going to have windows overlooking our properties. You are with our neighborhood and the flood concerns that are quite substantial in our neighborhood. There's, I know the City of Toronto did an assessment on the current condition of the storm sewer systems in our neighborhood, and it ultimately came up with some pretty poor results based on what is installed in our streets to support overland sort of flooding and rainwater. So taking up more space, obviously, and eliminating natural sort of features that absorb rainwater are only going to make that flooding worse. We had a flood 3 years ago, I think it was, and it's not fun. So anything we can do, or anything the committee can do to look at that perspective, I'm not sure if you account for that, but I think the existing condition of the storm sewers should be something that you look at. Further to that, nothing really, other than I don't understand why bylaws be or why variances need to be proposed. From what I would assume, variances are needed for sort of a special condition or sort of a site condition that would sort of offer a solution to a problem to put a variance in place. I'm unable to see a problem that would sort of merit a variance to be in place for any of the variances that are being proposed here. So that's my take on that. That's it. And I don't know if you read the first part of my letter. No, the note number 1 there. I'm just going to say that I spoke with. We have a very tight neighborhood. I'm sure you hear that all the time. We have a very tight neighborhood, and we get these letters in the mail, and then it becomes the hot topic of everyone talking about this letter from the City of Toronto. There are some elderly people in the neighborhood who I take pride in supporting and helping on a daily basis, who basically look at the letter, have no idea what it says, and then when we talk about it, they get flustered and they basically dismiss it, and their opinions are ultimately thrown to the side because they don't understand either the language of the letter, they don't understand the contents of the letter, and they don't understand how to respond to the letter. So I'm not sure what you guys do about that, but I think it's worth mentioning that if you're looking for opinions and perspectives from everybody who is a person of interest, as outlined in those who received these notices, you have not gotten all of the opinions and perspectives from the people who you consider to be persons of interest. So I'll just put that out there for the record. That's everything I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fiver. Just point out to you that we did get 8 letters of this, so it's not, we did get, and people like yourselves and the last speaker, Ms. Plavsic, who were so closely, closest proximity, weighing in with their concerns. In terms of trees, I'll just point out, I don't believe, unless I'm missing something, we don't have urban forestry weighing in on this matter. They examine every application and they weigh in on many of them, but not this one. So I'll just put that out there. So staff, we don't have any other speakers. We'll go back to Mr. Bagage for his rebuttal. And Mr. Bagage?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, the floor is yours, sir. Please respond to what the neighbors have to say.
Yes, as I said before, so I really appreciate the neighbors' concern. We those concerns, we put it on so we didn't change anything. We're building over the existing foundation. So I don't know what to say. What they're saying that the house is getting closer, or they are using the left. I don't understand that language. So the only thing that I have to say to the Mr. Chair and the committee members is that we are building over the existing footprint. We're not using land. We're not changing the front seats, side, rear elevation. So we're not changing anything. So I don't know.
Yeah, and there's no comment from urban forestry here. The coverage, there is no coverage variance, and in terms of rainwater, you're only going up, so you're not creating any more hard surfaces than is currently there. Is that correct?
Yes, we're not changing the grading. We're keeping the house. We're just building up.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, members, for the agent or any of the neighbors for that matter?
I actually have a question. Are you aware, sir, in our additional materials, we had some conditions from transportation. Are you aware of those conditions and are you okay with them?
Yeah, I'm aware. I read those. I think the driveway is existing, so it's gonna stay the same size, the same as it is, and I'm okay with the transportation, whatever they're asking to apply later. So
okay,
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Komaric?
Sure. The only variance I have any concern with was a GFA. I mean, you're proposing a house of almost 3,500 square feet, which is not small. So just wondering, have you looked at comparators for that neighborhood as to whether it's in keeping, whether the GFA number you're asking for is in keeping with the prevailing neighborhood?
So I would say that if I've seen the size of the houses that are bungalow, one floor, and if they want to raise the second floor, I think we're gonna be less than them. So if you can check even the neighbors, they have it's all the area has a bungalow of maybe 15 or more square feet area. So I cannot do anything to squeeze the house as it is. So I don't know if I respond to
Further to that, actually, this is a good segue into my next question, which is, do you happen to know the GFA for the house, the two-story house directly across from you at 127?
Pardon? I didn't get, sorry, I didn't get the.
Do you have the two-story home across the street from this property at 127? Do you happen to know the GFA for that house?
No.
How it compares to your house?
No. I've seen that the 115, it's a two-story, looks like a maybe 40 feet wide frontage of the house, so way larger than ours proposed. 117.
Is it 120? Is it 117 or 127?
I think it's 117. At least I know it's just in a corner between the two streets. It's a two houses on the left, I think, of the map. So it's across 76. So 76 is an existing two-story house, and I think 117 they renovated or. And also the neighbor, 82, he added a second floor above. I don't know if he built with a permit or no, but there is a part of that house that it's a two-story.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, 127, which is addition above the garage, the two-story addition above the garage. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's okay. You don't seem to know what that GFA is, so that's okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Donna.
Any other questions, members? And if not, is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, in essence, putting a second floor on an existing footprint. I think our main concern would be the overall height of the building in terms of impact. There is no height variance requested. I see the variances as being minor in nature and meeting the other tests under the Planning Act. And move approval subject to the transportation services conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Got a seconder for that? Ms. Alderson, I see your hand up. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Bikash, and thank you, neighbors. Okay, our next application is item number 4, 1475, the Queensway. And it's an application to construct an addition along the southwest side lower level of the existing retail store. There are 4 variances and cover letter, a parking study, a site-specific bylaw, a previous decision from August 2012. And in the additional materials, transportation advises they have no objections. Speaker on this application is Jeff Kenny, agent for the applicant. No other speakers. Welcome, Mr. Kenny.
Mr. Chair and committee members, thank you very much for hearing our item this morning. My name is Jeff Kenny. I am a planner and partner at Strategy 4 Development Consultants, this morning representing Stark Architects and IKEA. My address for the record of my business is 2620 Bristol Circle, unit number 100 in Oakville, Ontario, L6H6Z7. I'll be very brief in my presentation. The property under consideration is 1475 the Queensway, which, as Mr. Speaker has noted, has been an IKEA home furnishing retail warehouse since it was constructed in 2001. The existing retail warehouse store is approximately 27,500 square meters. IKEA proposes to construct a 1,933 square meter warehouse addition. This addition will not be publicly accessible and is being undertaken for the purpose of the company's expanded home delivery program, which I'm sure you can understand has experienced quite a bit of growth since 2019, particularly in this location as a result of COVID-19. Important to the application and how it is minor in nature is the fact that this addition is being constructed within the lower parking deck. So this particular site building sits on top of 2 levels of parking. So this building is being expanded with the first floor of underground parking as its finished floor. So this addition will not be visible at grade whatsoever. Now, the variances being requested are to vary from site-specific zoning bylaw 454-2000, which is the original site-specific bylaw. Those variances are to increase the permitted lot coverage from 35 to 38%. There is an existing floor area cap of 29,000 square meters, and we're proposing to increase that to 29,412 square meters in order to permit the building addition. We're going to be introducing new minimum setbacks. That's required since there was a Schedule B setback description in the original bylaw. And we're proposing to reduce the parking provided from 1,700 to 1,548. And if you've been to the site, you will know that parking here has become dramatically underutilized. Again, we feel the official plan designation is not being proposed to be changed. The existing use is remaining in place. Excuse me, sorry. The building addition is not publicly accessible and will again be utilized to facilitate only home delivery. So we feel it is within the intent of the zoning bylaw. We don't see any adverse impact resulting from the addition as it is contained between levels of parking. And I'm not a transportation engineer, but our consulting transportation professionals have crunched the numbers and are able to support the parking piece.
Yeah,
So
we have that in our materials.
so that concludes my presentation. I appreciate your attention and consideration of the matter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kenny. Members, any questions for Mr. Kenny or someone ready to weigh in with the motion? Mr. Kumarik?
I'm good to go with the motion unless someone has any questions. I believe the application is desirable, meets the 4 tests. As noted by transportation, this is not going to generate any additional traffic. And I've been there many a time and there's always been lots of parking, so I have no problem supporting it. I'd like to move approval with no conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Kumarik. Seconder for that? Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Have a great day. Okay, our next application is item number 5, 21 Blair Athol Crescent. It's an application for a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 2 variances, coverage and floor space index. There was a previous decision on this in April 29, 2021, which I assume has not yet been built, and this piggybacks on that approval. We have the same agent, David Small Designs, Peter Giordano. Just to point out from staff, I thought in these circumstances, it doesn't show that the GFA, it shows an increase from 0.52 to 0.53. It doesn't indicate that 5.3 from the permitted 0.45 was granted at committee back in April. But I assume we have proper notice, not to be a stickler. One speaker on this, Peter Giordano. Welcome,
Mr. Chair, we
Giordano.
will fix that for the decision. You're correct. It should state it from the 0.45.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Giordano?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Morning.
Giordano, David Small Designs.
Okay, so I guess based on my introduction, this is just a twigging. The property, we haven't yet built or completed building the what was approved in April 2021.
Absolutely, it's under construction. It started construction in fall of 2021. Received a phone call from the clients in spring of this year. The clients were diagnosed with a chronic degenerative health problem, which now makes traversing steps within the home increasingly difficult. So they asked if it would be possible to add an elevator to the home without radical changes to the plan or structure. We looked at it, internal changes proved difficult. We determined the best solution would be to add a small foundation projection next to the interior stairs, as you can see in your drawings. And our application today is for the addition of that elevator space. The shaft, elevator shaft void does not equate to extra floor area, but the addition of the new landing on the second floor that allows egress from the elevator adds additional floor area. And then the addition of the elevator on the exterior creates additional coverage.
Okay.
That was our solution.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Giordano. Members, any questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied. These variances are extremely minor in nature, and I move approval without conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that, Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Giordano. We'll see you again. And we can move on now to our next application, item number 6, 31 Mill Cove. It's an application to construct a new one-story rear addition to the existing building with 3 variances. We have revised drawings. There's no revised agenda. Cover letter. Planning is looking for conditions of approval to be substantially in accordance and the bird-friendly and dark compliant conditions, standard conditions. Ravines has advised they have no conditions, and we have 4 letters of support. Speaker on this application is Heather Asquith, the agent slash applicant. I believe she's an architect. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Heather Asquith. I'm the architect and agent for the application at 31 Mill Cove. I'll give a brief description of the proposal. The owners at 31 Mill Cove are proposing to construct a new one-story addition at the rear of their house along with a deck reconstruction. We're requesting the following variances from the citywide zoning bylaw. First is to allow for a setback of 0.0 meters from the shoreline hazard limit top of bank. Second is to allow for a separation distance of 0.0 meters from the shoreline hazard top of bank, not on that lot. The third is to allow for a gross floor area FSI of 0.71. The maximum allowable for the property is 0.5. With regard to the first 2 variances, these are essentially to legalize an existing condition. The owners are planning to reconstruct the deck in its existing configuration. However, it will extend slightly further, a distance of 0.288 meters, but it will not extend beyond the long-term stable slope line. This line's been established by the TRCA based on a recent slope study analysis, and the proposal has in turn been reviewed and approved in principle by the TRCA. There's some similar variances that have been approved in the immediate area, and the document, supporting document that we submitted lists some of these precedents. And with regard to the third variance for the increased FSI, I'll note that the portion of the site below the long-term stable top of slope is not included in the calculation for FSI, which significantly reduces the lot area in the calculation. This note has been reinforced by the staff planning report that's in the file. And I'll add, with this reduction, the proposed GFA is in keeping with similar approvals in the area. And again, our supporting document listed some of these in the neighborhood. We feel the variances here that we're requesting are minor in nature. The existing deck at the rear of the house is in need of repair. It requires reconstruction. It's essentially being reconstructed to meet its current configuration with a very minor expansion. The new addition is being built within this footprint of the existing deck, and this will have little impact on the overall built footprint of the structures on the site, and with minimal impact on the ravine area.
Okay.
There are no changes to the front of the house, so no adverse impact on the existing streetscape. And as I mentioned, this has been reviewed with the TRCA, who's in general support of the design. The owner has engaged an arborist and who has produced a tree protection plan for construction, as well as a planting plan post-construction. And as per the planning report, we've agreed that the glass on the rear facade conform to the bird-friendly guidelines, and lights are to be dark sky compliant. So in summary, we feel the one-story addition and deck construction constitute a reasonable development on this property and meet the 4 tests to be considered a minor variance from the bylaw.
Thank you, Ms. Asquith. Thank you for that presentation and for your presentation materials, which are excellent. Members, any questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion? And there's the planning conditions.
Palmer, just want clarification on the planning conditions, because their memo's dated August 26th and it refers to plans dated August 31st. So I'm wondering how on the 26th they knew what the plans looked like that were 5 days after their memo.
What they asked us to revise was, I think it was on drawing A 3.2, which was just to add a note with regard to the glass and the bird-friendly guidelines. So I believe that's what revised drawing they're referring to is. There's been no changes to the plans.
Okay, you're okay with the conditions they've asked for though, right?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the application meets the four tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to the Community Planning Department conditions.
Thank you for that motion. A seconder for that. Mr. Palmer? All in favor? Okay. All in favor, it's unanimous. Thank you, you have your approval. Thank you, Ms. Asquith. Okay, our next application is item number 7, 93 North Carson Street. It's to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There's 8 variances. We have the site-specific zoning bylaw, arborist report, and in the addition, and urban forestry looking for condition number 1, and in the additional materials transportation advised they have no objection. The speaker is Eddie Perez, as well as we have the neighbor next door at 91 North Carson Street registered to speak. So welcome, Mr. Perez. Welcome back.
Hello, good afternoon, Chairman again, and committee members. Here on behalf of the owner, and we're proposing, as you said, a new 2-story dwelling on this property. We have a few variants, but they're all minor in nature. I'll start off with number 1, where its floor index is 0.45, and we're asking for 0.4, and we're asking for 0.51. And then we have one for number 2, we're over the roof, flat roof by only 20 centimeters. The driveway, which transportation is okay with, we're at 5.05. We're asking 5.23 on our own property, not on the boulevard. And then we have the 4 square meter balcony. We're asking for 9.3. And then again, it's another main wall height. Instead of 7 meters, we have 7.2, is only 20 centimeters over. And it's all pertaining to the canopies and all that. It's all minor in nature. We don't have any length variance. We don't have any cover variance. So I feel that this application is minor in nature and it meets the 4 tests.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perez. Let's, does anyone have any questions at this time? Otherwise, we'll hear from the neighbor next door and you'll have a chance to respond.
Okay, thank you.
Questions for Mr. Perez?
Thank you.
Okay, it's Teresa Latour at 91 North Carson Street on the line.
Thank you for allowing me to be on. I'm not very familiar with all this, so.
Can you just start off, please start off by welcome, and please just let us know your name and address for the record, and let us know what your comments are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Teresa Latour. I'm at 91 North Carson Street. And I'm just calling because I wanted to know what this was all about. At the present time, I have tenants in that house, so they're worried that it might affect like disturbances with the noise and stuff. And my concern is if the building is going to be like too high, or their property is higher in the backyard, so it always floods on 91 North side, 91 North Carson. So there's always like extra water and stuff like that. So that was like mainly what I was concerned about. I know that they're building other homes in the area, but because I'm right next door, I don't want any disruptions to the tenants. And I'm worried about the elevation of like 93 North Carson is higher. So when their water is pooling, it always goes on to 91. So I'm worried about it, like any flooding or anything like that. And of course, the property line, I'd like to make sure that it's like they're 40 feet or whatever it is that they have. Like I have 40 feet wide. So, yeah, sorry if I'm a little bit nervous.
Nope, you're doing great.
Okay, so basically so my most concern is that there's nothing really on there. I know that they're building these like new homes, and I don't have a problem with that. And my problem is, as long as it doesn't affect my tenants, that they're going to end up leaving because of it, and as long as they're restricted to not changing any of the property lines, like regarding the surveys that are available.
Okay, I think that's probably in terms of your first issue with your tenants being disrupted by the construction. Ma'am, we deal with planning issues such as your issue about the height and the built form. We don't deal with construction. If there are problems or issues, there are rules to follow. You can deal with Toronto buildings on that when, but Mr. Perez can perhaps, whoever's going to be building will come around and speak to the neighbors. And there are certain procedures that they follow, but we don't consider those issues. We only deal with the building form. So let's see if members have any questions for you. And if not, Mr. Perez will respond to your other issues you raised.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for making your views known. Does anyone have any questions for the neighbor, Ms. Latour? Okay, if not, let's go back to Mr. Perez.
Yeah, hi. I heard what the neighbor had to say. As per the drainage and water, as you know, we're going to get a grading plan, and it's going to be built according to what's on the grading plan, and everything will be discharged on our own property. Nothing will be discharged onto the neighbors. So there shouldn't be any water going onto the neighbor's property. As you know, when we get the building permit, all that will be indicated on there. And as per the height is very minimal. As you know, for a pitch roof, you're allowed 9.5 meters, and we're way below that. So I feel that what we're proposing is very minimal and meets the four tests, as I said earlier. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perez. Any questions for Mr. Perez, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? Mr. Komarek?
Yeah, I find the application to be minor and meeting the four tests. I would like to therefore move approval, subject to forestry condition number 1.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion, Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor?
I'm sorry, can I stop?
Mr.
Can I stop?
Taylor? Yeah.
We should also impose, oh no, transportation is okay.
No objection, yeah. I think transportation weighed in, they got everything in late. It's all in the additional materials.
Sorry for the unnecessary interruption.
Not a problem. Better safe than sorry. Okay, so we had a motion and we had a seconder. All in favor, unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Perez, and thank you to Ms. Latour for weighing in as well. Item number 8, very straightforward application, 7 KENRIDGE Avenue. It's to construct a second-story addition above the existing garage and a 2-story rear addition. There are 4 variances. Transportation advised in the additional materials that they have no objection. There are 4 letters of support, and that's all we have. The speaker on this application is Joe Dome. Welcome, Mr. Dome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, my name is Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Dome, I don't think we need a fulsome presentation on this application. Very straightforward. No city departments or neighbors with concerns. Let's see if members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion.
If no one has any questions, I'm happy to weigh in with the motion. I move for approval. I believe this meets the 4 tests and is minor in nature, and so I move for approval subject to no conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion.
Palmer.
Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Dome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so 9 and 10 have been deferred, so we're on to item number 11, 50 Ridge Valley Crescent. It's an application to construct a detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 10 variances. We have a covering letter explaining the changes due to the 0.02 miscalculation by the zoning examiner. We have a presentation. Planning has a condition of approval to construct as illustrated. Urban Forestry is looking to deny variance 1, have conditions 1, 2, and 5. And we have 2 letters of support from 29 and 54 Ridge Valley. We have only one speaker, David Bronskill, agent for the applicant. Welcome, Mr. Bronskill.
Good afternoon, man. Chair and members of the committee. I'm a bit in your hands. What I had intended, unless you have any questions on the variances themselves, I intended mostly to speak to the urban forestry letter, but I'm also happy to go into a bit more detail on the variances themselves, if members of the committee have any concerns with the variances. If I could ask staff's assistants just to put up the site plan that had been included in the, excuse me, Mr. Chair. Apologies. To put up the site plan that had been included with the presentation, because I just wanted to identify the tree that urban forestry has indicated a concern with in terms of their recommendation for refusal. The architects have been in discussion with urban forestry, and I'll just say we're happy with the urban forestry conditions. We're going to work with urban forestry to see if the tree can be maintained as part of the permitting process, but it's not a tree that is in fact impacted by the variances that are before you, and we're not sure whether or not urban forestry has appreciated that. Thanks to staff, the tree, it's on the right side of that site plan, and it's where the front porch, it's right at the northeast corner of the proposed front porch. So if the hand could go a little bit up, thanks, I apologize to staff for directing with the hand, but it's I don't know if they, yeah, thank you. I'm just waiting for it to, if it's possible to zoom it a little more just so you can see it and I can de facto move that hand. It's on the front, it's at the upper corner of the front porch. And so it's not actually within the building zone of the house. It's not actually affected by the front yard setback variance, because the front yard setback is measured on the left hand there, on the west side of the lot is where the relief is required for the front yard setback. It's where the proposed porch comes out, and there's no variance for that. Now, we understand that urban forestry staff have said, well, that porch is connected to a retaining wall and it's connected to the house, and so therefore it is related to the variances, but respectfully, I don't agree with that. And so it's a tree that's proposed for removal that accommodates a porch on the front of the property for which no variance is actually being sought. That being said, we recognize that there's a permitting process that we'll have to undergo with respect to that tree, even in that instance. And we will work with urban forestry. And if ultimately we can't get a permit for the removal of that tree, we'll just have to modify the porch as it appears in that area to accommodate that tree being maintained. As very quick background for the committee, it's a 38 centimeter diameter Colorado blue spruce. It's a privately owned tree, so it's not a city tree. It's, according to the arborist report submitted with the application, suppressed today by adjacent vegetation and some dieback in the canopy today, and that canopy is also asymmetrical. So the forest, our client's arborist, as part of preparing that report, didn't see it as a strong candidate for retention, but urban forestry has objected to its removal, and so we'll have to work through that process with urban forestry. But the last thing I'll say is, again, we don't think it's related actually to any of the variances that are before you today. So approval of the variances ultimately won't prejudice that process with urban forestry.
Okay, and that's tree number 27 as referred to on the planning report. And
correct.
I take it, and we have the alternative conditions 1 and 2. I would take it your client will try to retain the tree if it's not possible. I assume there's going to be extensive landscaping provided on this lot.
Correct.
Build.
Correct, Mr. Chair. Mr. Wengel's office is already looking at alternatives in terms of what can be done in that area to try and keep the tree, and we'll work through that with urban forestry. The reason I went through that in such detail is I didn't want the committee to think that it's the tree, any of the trees within the building footprint of the house, or even there's a tree at the front there that's directly north of the front wall. That's not tree 27. It's the one that's a little bit further north, right at the corner of the porch.
Yes. Okay, and you're okay, your client is okay with the planning conditions, I take it?
100%. Planning staff have been very helpful with our client and the architects in working through this application, and the proposed condition of approval is both expected and acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Bronskill? Or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the application is set out in the revised public hearing notice meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to the community planning conditions and urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. There's a seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Mr. Kumarik. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Bronskill. We'll see you again.
Thank you to the panel. Have a good afternoon.
Application has been approved. Thank you. Okay, item number 12, moving along, 263 30th Street. We have a revised highlighted yellow for the application showing changes that have been made on this application. So there were 10 variances. There are now 8. 3 of those have been revised. We have revised plans, the zoning waiver. We have supporting material from the Toronto archives that have been provided to us. Cover letter, planning is recommending refusal. We'll hear from the agent as to whether before or after and revisions were made. I believe it was after, and they still are not in support, but I think that's what it was. Highlight the changes. Yes, okay. And finally, in the additional materials, we do have urban forestry memo wishing us to deny variance 1, and we have urban forestry conditions 2 and 5. Speaker on this application is Marin Zabzuni, as well as we have the neighbor from 261 right next door, registered to speak. Mr. Zabzuni, welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Marin Zabzuni, 1140 the Queensway.
Yes. So, sir, I've just introduced the application. You had 10 variances, you now have 8. Community planning is still not satisfied. So tell us why this application should be worthy of merit.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if community planning reviewed these changes because we sent them previous changes before this, and they wanted further reductions. And we did this more recently as we didn't have much time when they contacted us. So I'm happy to go over the variances.
Well, their letters dated August the 31st.
August the 31st.
And let me just see what variances they were, and they have outlined that you would reduce, let's say, main one 0.92 FSGFA.
Yes, our changes were done after it, September 2nd.
No, you're. Okay, let me see the revisions.
If you see the waiver,
okay, so you've come down a little. But anyway, how's the committee to know whether this satisfies community planning or not? Anyway, just proceed with your
okay.
You can proceed with your presentation.
Will do. So yes, these further changes were done so September 2nd after planning reviewed the last set. So I don't think they've had time to review this, but I'll go over it in terms of why we feel this application has the merit to meet the 4 tests. Starting off with variance number 1 being the lot coverage being proposed and reduced to 35.99%. The variance is consistent with other approvals in the neighborhood. There's 419 Valermo Drive at Part 2, 45% approved, and 36 Bellman Avenue, Part 1 at 57%. We even attached supporting material with other variances approved in the area that are fairly common, being another one at 364 Horner Avenue, 40%, 223 Beta Street, 41%, which is, quite a bit more than what we're proposing. And nearby on the same street, 253 30th Street at 34.80%, which is fairly close. We do have the rear deck that attributes, I believe, at this. So the lot coverage, given the building length and building width, I believe, is minor in nature because we do comply with side yard setbacks now, and our building length is only partially triggering a variance, which we'll go to next. So that's the rationale for the lot coverage. In terms of item 2, maximum floor space index, so this is quite critical. Even though the maximum floor space index is proposed at 0.89%, the proposed FSI for the first and second floor is only 0.66. So there's a site-specific bylaw that includes the proposed basement as part of the FSI, and we attached those site-specific bylaws that were sent to us by the zoning examiner. So this triggers a higher proposed FSI at 0.89 due to the basement being included. We have attached the site-specific bylaw as part of our supporting materials, so it should be uploaded as well. Also, the 420A Horner Avenue, Part 4, has been approved at 0.98, and 420A Part 1 at 1.04 times the area. So even with these variances, and you can look at our supporting chart, there's other dwellings that have been approved with these numbers. But again, I want to emphasize that the number is attributed to the basement being included as part of the FSI due to site-specific bylaws. In terms of item 3, side yard setback, we removed this variance, we reduced the width, and we comply with both side yards. Building length, we're proposing 17.43 meters, where maximum is 17. This is fairly minor. There's other properties, such as 119 North Carson Street at 18.31 meters approved, 43 Treeview Drive at 18.7, and on the same street, 236 30th Street at 20.6 meters. So ours is slightly more than what's allowed at 17.43 meters. Maximum building height is fairly minor. It's a flat roof. We sunk the house down as much as possible while having what's expected on a brand new home for ceiling heights. So I believe this is very minor in nature. And then there's some site-specific bylaws in terms of where the deck is measured from finished grade for item number 6, maximum cellar height. I feel like this is more of a technical variance given how close to grade both front porch and rear deck are. Item 7 and 8 speak to maximum front exterior main wall height. So 7 meters is allowed, and we're at 7.13 meters. We need a little bit of space to drain the water. Of course, it is a modern roof, so this triggers it, but it's very, very minor at 13 centimeters difference. And again, item 9, I would say, is another technical variance speaking on the rear deck height. So you can look at the drawings and the finished grade. We're very close to grade as much as we can be. We are working with existing conditions, and there's not much we can do here. But overall, the impact is very little, and it's more of a technical variance. And item 10, we removed this variance. So this is our this would be our presentation.
Okay, I think you're over. I just see the clock. So thank you, Mr. Zubzumi. So we're going to hear from the neighbor, but just before we do that, so I guess you made changes. Unity Planning sent a memo saying better, but not quite there. And they're particularly talked about the lot coverage and the gross floor area, which they believe that what you changed it to at that point would be among the largest. So now you're asking the committee to be a mind reader and see if the fact of further reduction from 92 to 89 GFA and from the coverage of 37.08 to 35.99 to be a mind reader of whether that would be acceptable or change community planning's mind. So that's I think where we have it. So let's hear from anyone have any questions for
Mr. Chair, I have a question regarding variance 2. I'm just a little confused here. What, Mr. Zabzuni, what is your proposed square meters?
So one moment. Okay, variance 2 FSI.
Gross floor area.
Yes, this is what we're proposing with a basement included is 0.89, which in square meters let me just go to the waiver here. It is 418.25 meters squared. And this is due to
On the notice, you have 418.25 crossed out and
No,
445
that's a
as
good
it's an error.
catch, Mr. Kmork. Yeah. If you look at the waiver, our
440
staff
so
switched the
445
numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Four
So it's
forty-five
actually
17 was the
418.
original number. 418.25 is proposed. So we will fix
Right.
that for the minutes and the decision.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, is there any follow-up on that, Mr. Mark, or can we go to the next, hear from the neighbor?
No, that's fine. I just
That clarified. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. That looks like the crux of whether the further reduction is, should be worthy of acceptance, or again, ever members disagree with community planning to start with. So that's where we have it. So let's hear the neighbor at 261. Right next door is Israel Bernardo. Welcome. Welcome, sir.
Hopefully no videos on my end. I'm gonna shut off my other one. Give me 1 sec.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had two phones going, just got walked away. So my biggest concern was number 3, which it looks like it's been deleted, and that was the encroachment on my south side. Is that correct?
Let me look at the revision. I guess they originally had a variance, number 3, the side yard setback of 0.61 has now been deleted. So they're now, it looks like will comply with the 1.2 meter. I assume that's the side we're speaking of. We can perhaps, Mr. Zumi, is which side yard we're talking about, or are we talking about both of the side yards? But less, that has been eliminated. So sir, at 0.89 and at coverage of 35.99, you feel that is acceptable or reasonable in the neighborhood?
Sorry. So for number 3, the south side lot line is my lot line. So my understanding is that's supposed to be 1.2.
Yeah,
So
so
that was
that's
my
been
main,
eliminated.
yeah, thank you. That was my main concern. Not that I'm being a troublesome neighbor, and I do realize there's a lot of development in the area, and I understand when variances come due, it is a variance, so it shouldn't be an automatic. And I think we often take it for granted when someone says they've done this and they've done that, but every street has its own identity. I'm not sure the title of the person Mr. Azumi speaking, Zabzuni, but you mentioned 420 Horner. I don't know what relation to what variance he's looking for, but that street in itself, if anyone was Horner Avenue, it's a 4-lane highway, like 2-lane east-west. There's very little residential and it incorporates a lot of industrial. So I don't know if that should be used as a, I guess, an example for variances. If anyone's driven it, there's probably from Brown's Line to very few houses on the north side. Everything else is industrial, and then it wraps around the jails there. So what maybe you can just explain what variance he was using to apply on that end. And the other question was the drainage, which everyone's talking about. I know it is sandy there, and I just want a commitment that they're in the permitted, that I can kind of understand that how the drainage is going to work, considering that it is a big property, flat roof, and pretty much that's it. I do accept change and working with neighbors. I don't have a lot of issues. Other than the main reason for this call was the number 3, which was scratched off, which is great. And just wondering if there's any proposed that might be in the design, but maybe he can speak to me after. But is there any proposed of removing fences? Because the fence there is about 12 years old. It's fairly new that we share. I would just like some clarification on that.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Bernardo before we turn it back over to Mr. Zabzuni to respond? Okay, Mr. Zabzuni.
Hello. Hi. Thank you to the neighbor. And yes, we did remove that side yard variance. And speaking to that, actually, that variance that the planner reviewed was reduced, but was not removed on the last set. And it was removed on this set, which helped reduce the coverage. FSI and remove this variance, which I believe is significant. If we look at the building envelope, how it fits into the lot, I need to emphasize that the side yard setbacks comply on both sides. Building length, because we have a little bit of a jog with the garage, is slightly over 17 meters. Building height is slightly over with a few centimeters. So overall, the building size itself, the building envelope, is fitting within these restrictions, just slightly over. And I believe that's a significant point in review. This area is developing, and we're not asking for anything that doesn't fit the area. I believe it meets the 4 tests. I strongly believe that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. My only suggestion is, as said at the outset, it would be, you're an experienced agent, you appear here often, when you get community planning to weigh in and say, with a typical report where they say you made changes, but it's not enough, and then you make further changes, it would be helpful for the committee to know whether, and not have to decide on themselves and mind read whether that would have satisfied planning and changed their opinion. Any questions for Mr. Zabzumi or for Mr. Bernardo, or is someone ready for a motion?
Yeah, Palmer, I've got a question. Just regarding forestry comments, I don't know that you addressed the forestry comments, which asked us not to approve variance 1, or if we do approve it, to put in a condition. So can you speak to that for us? How this variance either impacts or whether when you have that variance or not, whether it's going to impact the tree?
So variance 1 is the lot coverage, and we have reduced that. The driveway as well, if they're talking about the private tree at the front, which is centered, we're happy to work with the forestry department to make sure that the injury, if there is any injury, is minor in nature. But yes, happy to have a condition to accommodate urban forestry on this. And also in terms of planning, I just want to mention that they came to us quite late. Even these latest changes, we did send it back to them. They just did not have time to review. We're only doing our best in terms of addressing whatever comes to us. And we're working around the clock just to accommodate them, even nights and weekends, because they're coming at us very, very late, as I'm sure you've experienced with other applications. So we are doing our best there.
Thank you. So could we get up on the board the revised, in the additional materials, we had a revised tree protection plan and an arborist report, but we didn't have, so we have the memo, or the memo from urban plan. We have was a standalone memo on this from urban forestry, or is it just on the list? Probably have a standalone memo.
There's a memo in the additional material.
Coming.
And then also and then we have some of the response. I think we also have the revised tree protection plan and arborist report. So perhaps the further reduction in the coverage will help protect this tree. And sort of glean that. Yeah, they're talking at the 38.83. So Mr. Zabzumi, now that you reduced it to 35.99, is the tree more likely to be able to be maintained, or is the reduction elsewhere on the lot and wouldn't be affected in that area?
I'm not too sure. I would have to talk to the arborist. So I don't want to give you an answer that I'm not super confident on. I'd rather make sure that we address urban forestry and meet that condition.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Fair enough. So members, and is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Just one more question, if I may, Mr. Chair. I just have some unease about variance 2, and what is a precedent and what is not. Did Mr. Zabzuni, did planning indicate to you what they would like, what they would have desired to see?
They have not. We have an email correspondence with them saying just further reductions, but they have not stated what they'd like to see. We did try to get in conversation with them. Just it's been very tough to get a hold of them. And yes, they have not stated any numbers. We did, however, update and put some supporting material on FSI numbers in the area. We spoke with the zoning examiner as well. And
okay, and you gave some reason or an exception as to why you're really not at 8.8 or 8.9, that there was some other extent. Can you repeat that?
This is actually one of the biggest points on this variance, and is very, very important that I emphasize this. The reason the proposed FSI is not 0.66, which is what the first and second floor is, proposed that is because they are including the basement as well due to site-specific bylaws, which we have attached, and the zoning examiner sent us these bylaws. So that's a significant reason. It's not square footage you can see from the outside as it's in the basement. And it's not one of those elevated designs where the basement is off the ground with a garage in the basement and the first floor above. We don't have that. We actually, the house is very, very, if you look at the front elevation, it's very sunk into the ground where there's barely any risers from porch to the front door. So we made sure to reduce the impact significantly there in the design style that this house is done. So the basement is the reason, and we attached the zoning bylaws, the site-specific, that were sent to us from the zoning examiner, because we knew that this is a technical concern and that we need to emphasize this. And you're happy to tie to site plan or whatever you feel is right, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Okay, and what would be your square meter at 0.66?
One moment. It would be 306.83 meters squared, significantly less than 418.
Okay.
Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion? And I don't have a visual on Mr. Taylor.
Just a question for clarification. You said we could tie this to a site plan. Do you have a date on that? Is it, and I've got a date on some, is it September 2nd?
Let me see.
The plans filed with us were September 6th.
September 6th, okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion? And again, I don't have a visual on you, Mr. Taylor. And everybody else.
We can mark him as absent. Maybe he's not there.
Oh.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion. I think the applicant has revised the application and provided justification for this. So I think it meets the four tests in the Planning Act as minor in nature. So the application as revised, I'll move for approval subject to urban forestry, and I'm unclear if they want condition 1 and 2, so I'm going to put both of them in because one of their memos says 2, one says 1, and I'm going to tie it to the site plan dated September 6th, 2022.
With respect to everything, or
with respect to the coverage and the GFA.
Okay, so with respect to construct as illustrated.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that motion. We have a seconder for that. Mr. Komarek, thank you. All in favor? Okay, it's a unanimous on Mr. Taylor, I guess, is being marked absent on this application. Okay. Okay, next application is item number 1385 Savona Drive. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances. We have supporting material, a declaration of use, an arborist report. Forestry is asking we deny variance 1. 8 letters of support, 7 letters of opposition. Urban forestry conditions 2 and 5, And in the additional materials, we have a revised tree protection plan and arborist report. The speaker on this application is Christopher Zianis, the agent for the applicant, as well as we have the neighbor at 83 Savona Drive registered to speak. Welcome, Mr. Zianis.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, committee members.
Okay, so we have a lot of activity on this. We have a lot of letters, both for and against. And we have community planning, or sorry, forestry looking for a refusal due to the impact on the tree. So we only have one other neighbor registered to speak. So why don't you give us a short presentation, sir?
Sure. So the application is for a new detached dwelling with attached garage. We're seeking 3 variances, one of them being part of the old bylaw. With regards to variance 1 and the floor space index, I provided a comparison map of the neighborhood that can be pulled up just to show some context with the new development. Is that pulled up? I just can't see it. It was part of the supporting documentation?
Yeah. Supporting materials.
Correct.
Our bookmark.
Page 2, page 1. That document. It's up or down a page.
The one with the shaded.
Yeah, two pages up, I believe. So page 15, maybe, of that document you have there.
You're looking at the shaded footprint of the property, right, on the site plan, document A1, right?
No, there's a page right before that. So right now I'm looking at the elevation. The sheet before that was the site plan, and there's a sheet before that. Anyways, the comparison map that I provided shows that the FSI that we are asking for is in keeping with the new developments of the neighborhood. There we go. That's the page I'm looking for. Those properties shown in orange are at or in excess of 0.57 times the area. With regards to the side yard setback, on one side of the property, which is the west side, the variance is for the side yard setback at the back of the house, at the front and at the midpoint at the back of the garage. We meet the bylaw. And on the east side of the property, we're asking for a reduced side yard setback, but it's in keeping with the chimney bump outs of the existing house. With regards to the height in the old bylaw, we fall within the requirements of the new bylaw for height of a flat roof. So for urban forestry's recommendation to deny variance number 1, which is the FSI, not sure why that was recommended. The actual construction of the house doesn't impact the tree protection zone of the tree in question. But we did get an arborist report, and we did revise the driveway and front walk design to mitigate the amount of injury to that tree, which our arborist sees as a good solution. And we have also submitted a application to urban forestry to injure that tree.
Yeah, and that's in our additional materials. We have the revised tree protection plan and an arborist report.
That's correct. That's been submitted to urban forestry.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
I'm happy to answer any questions if committee members have any.
Sure. Okay. Anyone have any questions for the agent, or if not, we'll hear from the neighbor next door, and we'll have a chance to respond to that. Okay, Mr. Kumar.
Just a brief question. I believe one of the neighbors raised issue about this. I just would like the agent to speak to the posting of the notice.
As far as I know, it was posted when it was supposed to be. It did get sent into the committee member a few days late because there was an issue in getting me the email to submit, but I was under the impression that it was submitted, or sorry, posted the day it was supposed to be.
And staff, the sign declaration has been signed by the applicant.
I can take a look for that.
Yeah, I'm saying if we have a signed declaration that they've posted the sign. Okay, so if any other questions, or let's hear from the neighbor, and in the meantime, staff can check on whether we have a signed the sign was posted as required. And anyway, we do have 7 letters of opposition, so obviously it did come to people's attention, and 8 letters of support. Okay, so we have Carol Van Wyck on the line from 83 Savona.
Mr. Chair,
Welcome.
so she was here this morning. She has since left the call, so she's not on the line right now.
Okay, so we do have the multiple letters of support, members' notification. So I guess there's nothing to respond to.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, before you continue, I did have a look at the sign posting affidavit on IBMS, and it was signed. It was signed. So just confirming that for you.
Okay. Okay. Thank. Okay, members, any questions for Mr. Zianis? There's someone ready for a motion. We do not have the neighbor on the line, but we do have the various letters of support for support and opposition.
Mr. Palmer here. A question for staff. Having a unit in a house is as of right now, is it not?
Sorry, could you?
It's been raised as an issue by some of the neighbors have raised an issue about an apparent proposed apartment in the dwelling, and that's as of right now, is it not?
You are allowed a secondary suite as long as you comply with the requirements for secondary suites.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion. I think the graphic that the applicant put up about the FSI in the area actually hurts them. It looks like there's about 8 examples of it, 9 examples out of maybe 250 dwellings. So I'm going to move refusal on the basis that the variances requested are not minor in nature and are out of character with the neighborhood, don't meet the intent of the zoning bylaw or official plan.
Okay, thank you. I'm seconded for that motion. There's no seconder. The motion fails. Can I have a new motion? Another motion. Different motion.
I'm happy to make that motion. We don't have anything from community planning regarding this application. We have a concern from urban forestry, which I think is going to be addressed. While it's true that this, this is a larger home than is currently there, I believe this can be built as of right. So I'm going to move for approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2, I believe.
Yes.
But there's some confusion around urban forestry, if I may, because on the consolidated memo, they were requesting condition 2, and then there was a separate memo where they were requesting condition 1.
I believe that was the last one. I believe that was the last application, and I believe that Mr. Palmer addressed that, and he added 1 and 2.
It's this one as well. So
is it this one as well? Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll be
1
happy
and
to
2.
add condition. Yeah, I'll be happy to add condition number 1 and condition number 2.
That's 1 and 2. Okay, that's your motion. Thank you for that motion. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. Komarek, thank you. All in favor? Motion carries 3-1 with Mr. Taylor absent. take it. Okay.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me? It's Taylor.
Oh, yes. Okay, we can hear you. Can't see you. Are you? You been there?
I can't see you either.
Okay. Were you in favor of that motion?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion carries 4-1. Thank you. I'm glad you're with us. If you want to pipe in, you're going to have to yell out because I can't see your hand going up.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the meeting and try and rejoin.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to do that right now.
Okay. Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. The next application, while you're doing that, I'll introduce the next one. It's item number 14. We're almost at the end of the morning session. It's to construct a new 2-story addition to the rear of the existing dwelling and new 1-story addition above the existing dwelling. There are 4 variances. We have a previous decision from February 2021, the same architect, different owners. And I guess the question is, was that built? We have no objection from Urban Forestry. Well, they want condition number 1. Transportation has no objection. And looks like something I had a question about whether it's the same GFA, 0.61 FSI. Anyway, we can hear from the agent. The agent is Jed Jones, architect, and he will be appearing by video.
At this time, you can go ahead and turn your video on, Jed.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Yes, can you hear me? Is Jed Jones there? I am here. Oh, you
We're
have to turn
having
on your video,
difficulty
sir.
hearing you, Mr. Jones.
We're seeing you. Okay, can you hear me now? We can hear you now, yes. Okay, good. Sorry about that. Chairman, members of committee, if I can. We're not hearing you, sir. No, you're not hearing me. That's better. I think maybe if you, when you move or something. Go ahead, keep going. Yeah. I think when you move to your right, we hear you better. Can you move over to the right? Can you hear me better here? Yeah, we can. Okay, sorry about that. It's wild. Okay,
Yeah,
go
okay.
ahead. Don't
Okay,
move.
sorry. If I can just give you a brief history of this. The owners of this property came to the committee back in 2020.
Yep.
And were approved for a rear addition. They have now since realized that it's a growing family that they actually should have asked for a 2-story addition. So this application is to put a 2nd story on the previously approved rear addition. So it basically takes the floor space index from 0.61 previously approved now to 0.67.
0.67, that was my question. Okay.
Yes.
So
that
really
is
was
all
not built, sir? That wasn't built?
No, they haven't built it yet, no.
Okay, so the previous owner got the permission, and I think you said 2020. I think I had it as February 2021. Unless I'm wrong.
Yeah. So it was previously approved. So all we're asking for is the second is to increase to add the 2nd floor to that previously approved addition.
Okay, and yeah, they can use the same architect too, so that's good. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Jones, or is someone ready for a motion? So back in February 2021, they asked for a 2-story and a 1-story. Now they want a or the 1-story portion, they now want to be 2-story.
That's correct.
Okay. And there's no one else here with any concerns. I assume you're okay with urban forestry condition number 1.
Yeah, that's fine. Not a problem.
On transportation, I have no objection. Okay, so members, any questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm happy to make that motion if no one has any questions.
Okay.
Stan, I saw your hand going up.
That's okay. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay.
You beat me to it.
I believe this application meets the four tests under the Planning Act and move for approval subject to urban forestry condition number 1. Transportation was okay. They made comments, but they're okay with it.
Okay. Thank you for that motion. I have a seconder for that. Mr. Kumoric, thank you. All in favor? Mr. Taylor, you're in favor?
He's not here anymore.
Okay, okay. I saw him walking around he did have a visual on him for a while. Okay, thank you. So the motion carries unanimously with Mr. Taylor absent. Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. We'll now move on to the next application, item number 15, which is 250 Wincott Drive. This is an application to permit a low space deficiency, 2 very long variances, which we can read. We have council adopted authorization to submission of a minor variance application. We have a site-specific zoning bylaw, covering letter from Bousfields, a parking report study from BA Group, an arborist report, and just the 2 variances. So the speaker on this is Ryan Doherty. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we have your 2 comprehensive, the BA Group memo and the Bousfields cover letter, as well as another and a memorandum. I don't believe we need you want to just give us a brief 1 minute, 2 minute summary on this while we're here?
For sure, I can. I'll be quite brief, and then happy to answer any questions after.
Cole's Notes version. Yeah.
Yep. So we are essentially requesting 2 identical variances, one from each site-specific bylaw to permit a reduced loading space configuration. Just to provide a bit of history, so in July 2021, a rezoning application was approved for this whole site, 250 Wincott Drive and 4620 Eglinton, to permit 3 buildings of 11, 11, and 12 stories. This resulted in the adoption of site-specific bylaws 834-2021 and 835-2022, which amended the citywide 569-2013 bylaw and Etobicoke zoning code. So this application for variances speaks particularly to Building C, which is located at the southeast corner of the site. With respect to Building C, the amending site-specific bylaws each effectively require a total of 4 loading spaces, comprised of 1 type A space, 2 type B spaces, and 1 type G space. So we're requesting 2 variances, one from each of the site-specific bylaws, to permit a reduced loading space configuration of just 2 loading spaces, comprised of 1 type A space and 1 type G space. The reduced number of loading spaces are being requested, given that the amount of non-residential GFA within Building C has reduced as we've gone through the site plan process. So essentially, that's pretty much it. We believe that the application meets the 4 tests, as it will provide a 2-space configuration that is consistent with the requirements of the broader citywide zoning bylaw 569-2013, and that's outlined in the transportation memo that was sent over. As well, the variances don't propose any changes to the official plan, will result in changes that are internal to the building envelope, and don't contemplate any built form or massing changes such as density, height, setbacks, etc. We've also not received any correspondence or comments from planning, transportation services, or urban forestry on this application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Doherty. Any questions, or is someone ready for a motion? Welcome back, Mr. Taylor. You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I'm having some connectivity issues, so you can probably see I'm standing in my basement right now. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Is anyone ready to weigh in with a motion on this?
Yeah, Stan, I'll move the motion. I believe the application is minor, meets the 4 tests. And would like
Thank
to
you.
move
Seconder
approval.
for that. Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? We have everyone hands up, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Okay, so our last application of the morning is item number 16, 357 Silverthorne Avenue. It's an application to construct a new dwelling with an integral garage, and there are 5 variances. Urban forestry is looking for conditions 2 and 3. Transportation has 3 conditions of approval, and I believe that's all we have. We have Imran Khan, the applicant, presenting the application. So it's the agent. It's an agent. It looks like, and then we have the neighbor, 366 Blackthorn Avenue, area resident registered to speak as well on this. So, Imran Khan.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Imran Khan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm representing on behalf of the owner, and also I'm the architect of this building, designing the building. My address is 1906 Parkside Drive, Pickering, L1V3N5. We have 5 variances, mostly straight forward, and 1 and 2 about the building setback, and that is the permitted is 1.8 meter. We are providing 0.56 on the north and 0.74 on the south. In our opinion, this is minor because if we look in this area, the recent development, we can have 0.4 to 0.5, 0.4 in one side, 0.5 another side. Yes. in at the property 320 Gilbert Avenue, that is 2 road west of this subject property, and also we can have on the west Chambers Avenue, 168 Chambers Avenue, that is also 0.51 meter side yard setback. Same way on the north, we can find 551 Donald Avenue, that is also 0.45 meters. So we have a similar kind of side yard setback in the recent development. So we also proposing our property width is 7.6 to 6 meter. We try to achieve the spaces inside, so we can arrange the comfortable space inside of the building. And if we go for the 3 and 4 variances, that is also side yard setback for the front platform. This front platform is the landing to enter the building, just the stair coming to the main floor. Yep. And then giving the landing to front entrance to the building, and we are proposing 0.76 meter, whereas the permitted 1.8 meter. This is the setback is less than the building setback. We propose 0.56 setback for the building, whereas we are providing landing 0.76 meter. If we go for the
sir, I think, thank you, sir. I think I've gone through the variances, and I guess parking, transportation has 3 conditions. You're okay with those conditions?
Yeah, we are okay.
Okay, and I'll just congratulate you. It looks like your variances, although you have 5, there is no variance for FSI or GFA. There is no variance for coverage. There's no variance for length or depth or height. Those are the type of, we often see a lot of variances and big ones on those, and you've designed a house without any of those variances. So let's see if committee members have any questions or if someone's ready for a motion.
Just one question, if I may. Sir, what is the current north setback?
Current north is, hold a minute, I have to have the survey in front of me. That is 0.56, hold a minute, yeah, it's 0.57. 0.57.
So you're making it slightly worse than existing?
It's 0.56 we are proposing.
Yeah, the front, it's only with respect to the platforms too, I think. It's not the actual, it's the front platforms 0.76 on the north side, and
So it's not the whole building?
it doesn't look like it. Or maybe, oh, the in variance 2 is that it's the south side line is 0.74. But I'm not sure which answer he's giving you to.
Well, it was the north that I wanted to.
Okay, yeah, the north is 0.76. So, okay, any other questions, Mr. Komarek or anybody else? Or else we'll hear from. We have to hear from the neighbor now at 366, Pauline Levy. Levy or Levy? 366, so that looks like across the street somewhere. Location map. Yeah, but 1, 2, 3, 4 houses down across the street. Do we have Pauline Levy on the line? Staff?
She is on the line and she's unmuted. Pauline, can you hear us?
Pauline, are you there? Staff, have you been able to make contact or confirm that in fact, I thought I heard some, that Pauline Levy is actually on the line, ready to make a submit.
She wasn't on the line earlier when we did our mic check. She joined the call a little bit later. So we have not made that contact with her yet.
Okay, no. She's not an immediate neighbor on either side or behind. She's 4 houses across the street. Over. So I don't know if she's on the line and maybe her mute button is on.
Pauline, if you are on the line and trying to speak, maybe try logging out and logging back in.
Anyway. So I guess we have 2 choices. We can hold this down till after lunch, or we can we can't reach Pauline Levy, then we don't have a letter to rely on as to what if there were any concerns or what those concerns could be.
Since we're waiting on a neighbor, I just thought I do have a concern myself. I'm a little concerned about the height of the first floor and the stairs leading up to it. Can the applicant actually tell me how many stairs are leading up to the front door? This all stems from.
It's going 10 steps. 10.
10 stairs up to the front door?
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a concern with that, but I'm assuming there aren't any height variances.
But we have the main entrance also. Like this stair is going to the main floor, but we have the another door that is at the grade level. You can see in the basement plan. That is the level at the garage level. We have another entrance to the stair of the building. If you go to the basement floor, you can see there is a direct access to the building at the grade level.
Without having to take those steps. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, without having that steps.
I think this application would qualify as a soldier home that everybody is outraged about, but I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, we don't have, do we have, I don't believe we have any letters at all, from neighbors or. We just have 3 conditions of approval from transportation and 2 conditions from urban forestry. Is that correct? Oh, sorry, the Pauline Levy is not on Silverthorne, she's on Blackthorn. So maybe she's directly behind. Let's see. $366. No, it's behind, but 4 houses over. Anyway, Madam Secretary Treasurer, if we don't have someone on the line, in this case,
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I do have her on the phone now. So I believe Pauline can hear the proceeding, so maybe, if you're amenable to this, I can put her on speak.
Absolutely, any way we can hear her.
Okay, sorry, 1 second, Mr. Chair.
Wondering what she has to say. She's, 4 houses over in the backyard.
Okay, Pauline, go ahead.
Oh, hi, good morning, committee. I'm the neighbor that lives behind this home. And I'm actually on this for curiosity reason because I grew up in the neighborhood. My father passed away and I purchased the house. And I too looked to do some renovations to that home. So I just wanted to understand that this house is proposing to go 3 stories. Is that correct?
You would say what you have to say, and then the applicant will answer your questions, ma'am. It's not a back and forth.
Can you repeat what he said?
Yeah.
He said that it's not
I'm saying we're not you just asked something, and if you were waiting for an answer, you get the answers. The applicant responds to what you have to say at the end of what you have to say. Okay. I'm not sure if this is going to be a 2-story or a 3-story. Looks like it's a 2-story. Staff?
Okay, go ahead.
There's no height variances on this. Anyway, please continue with what you wish to say, Mrs. Levy, and then will the applicant respond.
Okay, Pauline, you can go ahead.
And just
With
to
what
clarify, I believe you're not directly behind your 4 houses over. Is that correct?
Sorry, Pauline, you can go ahead with your submission.
But my submission would have to be done by computer. I'm just turning that on.
No, you can go ahead. You can speak.
Okay, I was explaining that I too, with my home behind Silverthorne, it was my father's home that I purchased. My dad passed away and I have to do renovations myself. So this home, I wanted to understand, he is going to be going 3 stories. I don't believe it's an existing 3 stories.
Sorry, Pauline, as the chair had mentioned, continue with your submission and the applicant will respond. So I believe the chair indicated that there was no height variance.
Okay, that's what I wasn't understanding. Oh.
Okay, Pauline, can you hear me?
Mr. Chair, we're just going to get her to call back into the WebEx. Hang tight.
I don't believe she has any real, she doesn't seem to, there's a few side yard variances here. There's no height variance. There's no substantive variances. And I don't believe she's aware of what this application is about.
Can I just add this? And I'm looking at this house on Google Maps right now. First of all, it's a one-story home. There are 19, I counted them, 19 steps going up to that home because of the grade of that particular lot. So if you're going to add 19 steps to the 10 steps and then do a 3-story home, which visually it will look like a 3-story home, I think the appearance will just be ridiculous. In my humble opinion, you're starting with 19 steps going up and then an additional 10 steps after that. There's nothing on the street that's even remotely similar to this.
Are we sure that that's what the intent is?
Well, I'm
Sounds a
looking
little odd to me.
at the, I'm not sure, but I'm right now, I'm
Okay, anyway,
looking at,
so you know what? We have the applicant on the line. We have the neighbor on the line. So let them advise us what the situation is. So as Mrs. Levy back on the line for the 3rd time to finish her submission, so we can hear back from Mr. Khan finish this application.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm so sorry about all this back and forth. I apologize. No, I am in favor with this gentleman. I just wanted to understand that he's going for the variance on the width of the home, is he not?
Like I said, we'll respond to what you have to say. I don't answer your questions.
Okay, that's what my question is. I
Okay.
don't know who's speaking right now.
Okay, so you're worried about the width of the home?
I'd like to know what the end width is going to be, yes.
Okay. Okay, so please finish what you have to say, and when Mr. Khan will respond to what your questions were.
I was explaining that I grew up in the neighborhood. The neighborhood
Yeah,
is
I know. You bought your father's house, and you have to do renovations.
yeah, it's going through a huge regentrification, and everybody's making the place beautiful. I'm all in
Yes.
favor of that. I just want to get an understanding of, his width that he's going for and what that variance entails.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Khan, you've heard from the neighbor, 4 houses over in the backyard, and she has some questions that she's raised. If you can please reply to what she has asked.
Yeah, thanks. So our width of the house is 20 feet 8 inches. Our property width is for 25 feet. So it's not that much width for a building we have opportunity to make. Yeah, this is the answer of the questions. And the other question answer for the steps up. Basically, we are proposing a new grade. So the existing grading, whatever showing on the Google map at the front of the house will not be for the proposed house. We are only 10 steps up to the main floor. That 18 steps now in the Google plan, that is for the existing house, but that will not be for our proposed house. It will be the grading will be just up of the road level, and there will be the garage. And from the garage level, there will be 10 steps to the main floor.
So 10, not 20 or 18 or anything like that.
No, not.
Is 10 steps typical? But still a lot of steps. Is that sort of a typical situation, or what's the need for 10 steps?
It's 10 steps going to the main. This is,
Okay.
but we have also another entrance from the grade level to the garage.
Okay.
Beside the garage entrance, yeah.
Okay, so it's 10 steps, not 20. Okay.
Yeah, not 20.
Okay, so you advised the width as what the neighbor wanted to know in the back, and you've answered the question that Ms. Alderson raised. So let's just see if there's any further questions or if someone's ready for a motion.
I just want to make a couple of comments. One pertaining to this area. It's probably the hilliest area of Toronto. There's a lot of extreme grade variations, which makes it a challenge for building. I am surprised that he's going 10 feet to the main floor, because as a result, I'm surprised that planning isn't considering the basement as part of the GFI. But
yeah,
it is what it is. If we go by what's before us, I think it's reasonable. I'm not happy with the fact that the side yard setback will be slightly worsened, but I see from the plan that it's not for the full length of the house, it's just for part of it. So
okay.
Those are my comments.
Okay, my comment is what I mentioned earlier, that the fact that there is a new dwelling and there's no coverage No FSI, GFA, height.
Because it's the top of the hill though, Michael, it will look very high.
Yeah, it's a very hilly part of the city of York. Former city of York. Okay, thanks for those. Any other comments, or is someone ready for a motion?
Yeah, there are, in this particular section of the street, it looks like there are about 6 or 7 homes with, 20 steps leading up to them, but they're mostly, bungalows or, 2-story homes. There's a couple of 2-story homes, but I think this one is going to look extremely out of place.
Yeah, he did say that they also have, in terms of, they do have an entrance at grade from the garage on the side. So in terms of, but you're looking at the look. Nothing.
Yeah.
Planning, no real variances related to that. It's just where it's located. Anyway, so someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this area, I guess, is affected by what one might call unfortunate topography, but I think we have to look at the planning implications of what's proposed. I don't see any of the variances being problematic. I'm satisfied they meet the 4 tests. And I move approval subject to urban forestry conditions 2 and 3 and the transportation services conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that motion, Mr. Palmer.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, opposed? Motion carries 4-1 with Ms. Alderson dissenting. Thank you to the neighbor. Glad we got to hear from Mrs. Levy, and to the applicant and Mr. Khan. And so we now are adjourned to finish the morning session. It's 1:21. Staff, Madam Secretary Treasurer, what time do you wish to have the afternoon session start?
Let's do 2:30.
2:30?
Yep.
2:30?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a very short afternoon, so we'll see everyone back here at 2:30. Have a great break.